It's Friday, December 13th, 2024. Welcome back to another episode where I will start off by telling you very simply that if you'd like to support our show, go to supportourshow.com and you will see an array of options that will let you support in whatever way you see fit. I found something out because I wasn't sure about this because you recently set up your Patreon and do you have a free tier for that or no?
I got nobody, dude. Don't worry about it.
No. I'm saying...
I have no tier. There's nothing there. Remember, I haven't put anything up.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing there. So basically, my Patreon says, hey, if you want to support what I'm doing, you can support $1, $2, $3, I like whatever.
I don't know
What's
if I
that?
actually enabled the free tier on ours. Hold on. Because I was under the misimpression, or the incorrect impression, that Patreon had recently added the free tier that a lot of people now use, so that people could just join up as a way to, talk and whatever. And I was told, no, it was always there, but it was hidden by default. So I don't think, did I set ours up with a free tier? So I'm just letting people know, if you have a Patreon or you weren't aware of it, that free tier was always there. I just didn't know it was Creator Hub. Is that what I need to go to? Jeez. Their web interface is strangely bad.
The Patreon?
I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, yeah, it's not as intuitive as you would think it would be. So I don't know if we have it. Do we have a free tier? If we don't, I'll add one. Because, I didn't realize. Add a tier. Tier name. 0. So there is a free one. All right, I'll do that later. So just in case anybody didn't know this or thought like I did, that it was something that was new. No, it's there. It's just hidden. So I will add a free one because that's fine. We really don't do anything specific to it. I post now and then on it. I've been posting artwork stuff on there. But honestly, you'll see that if you follow me on Blue Sky as well. Or, no, I don't even bother. But Instagram I only use for the live streams. I don't use it for anything else. I really don't care. Blue Sky's the only one I'm using right now because it's good and I like it and it hasn't been ruined yet. So.
Oh.
I mean, it will be. They inevitably all be. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. We'll see. But if I had to bet money...
Give them time.
I mean, inevitably, this is the way all things go. But for the moment, it's still a fun place. So, but I am trying to post more stuff on the Patreon. So I will add the free tier. In fact, by the time this posts, it should be there. And that way, if you want to join... Because, it's still a method of support. I think some people... Maybe the reason they hid the free tier is that they thought that people would interpret that as... I'm not being supported because you're not paying any money, but I don't think that's fair. I don't think everybody has the funds, especially if you support a bunch of other people on Patreon. I don't think that being a $0 member is not support. I've seen that opinion. I disagree with it. So once that's there, if you want to join there, it's not really going to do anything in terms of, you're not going to really get anything you wouldn't get from following the show normally, but
I am on the free tier of a few artists, and it's really just to get updates for how often they actually put new stuff up. I can't see it, but it lets me know that they're doing it, and that makes it so that I'm like more interested, because it's almost like I want to, if if I'm going to join, I'd like to know that people are actually doing things, because sometimes you join something and...
You just reminded me of something. I'm going to make a note. That is one thing when Libsyn asks me about stuff again. I should ask them if there's a way for them to have a connector to Patreon, because honestly, they really should. Let me make this note, because my notes are really long. Jeez. Talk to Libsyn about Patreon connector. There we go. Okay, bout without an A. That's fine. I know what that means. Yeah, that's about the only thing that I should have thought of that before now. It would be nice because I don't post every episode on Patreon. I don't. I mean, our RSS automatically updates. Most people subscribe via that anyway.
I think that if somebody is following you on Patreon, then they already know to go looking for the show elsewhere.
Well, that's what I would assume. I would hope that people know that. So, if not, sorry. Yeah.
Well, by the time this show comes out, Chapter 4 of my audiobook project will be posted. So...
Hooray!
And, yeah, I suppose. I feel like I'm finally getting to the more fun part of the book, where shit's blowing up, and people are ready to kill each other. But it is a wonderful experiment. Not experiment. It's a wonderful experience to be reading my first novel while revising my current novel. Because every now and then when I'm writing now, I do this thing where I'll stop no matter what and just go back like 10, 20 chapters and read my way back to make sure that I'm pulling all the threads with me. I haven't made any mistakes. I haven't changed someone's eye color. Like everything is consistent, right? And I do this a lot. This is why this one's taking a lot longer for me, because it's kind of like this midway sort of constant revision that's going to happen. But reading my work now and then reading my work then, I'm like, oh man, like this is so different. So it's an interesting experience seeing like the change, because I mean, for an artist, it's kind of like for you, it's like you can look at an old piece and a new piece and see them right next to each other, whereas I literally have to read these two things at the same time to get a sense of like how much I've evolved. So it's interesting. It's interesting. Although I still know that I still like my weird ideas. I don't think this current book, Artificial Fear, is as weird as my books get. I feel like I'm getting more weird as I keep going. But I got to this part where androids are melting, and I really love like how what's the word I'm looking for? Restrained I was in the description of like skin melting off their fingertips. Whereas now it's like, Jesus, I would have gone into that far more. I would have gotten way more into that imagery, Whereas then I was like, keep it light. It's funny. Anyway, yeah, that'll be coming out. By the time the show comes out, it'll be out. So if anyone's interested, which I don't know if anyone is, but there it is. So here we are.
Have you checked your metrics?
I think 17 people have.
Hey, listen, that's not bad.
Have looked at, but I think 10 of them are like me.
I don't think it. I think it knows the difference between the two.
You know what? Listen. So I went on Twitter, right? And I went on Twitter, and all of a sudden I was bombarded by bots, and I was posting kind of my weird, funny shit, and all of a sudden I had almost 100 followers within like a week or two, right? Yeah. And I was like, Jesus, this is all fucking bots. Like, what the hell's going on here? And then I didn't post for 3 days because I was busy living, and they all left, and now I have like 3 people. I was just laughing my ass off. I was like, oh, the bots came and they went. I guess I was just not a good target for them.
Yeah, that happens. It could. The 17 could be because I did put the link to your stuff on the support page, so it's possible some of that.
Oh, whatever.
Upticked a bit.
Listen, if people can come.
Well, I'll tell you something else too.
Come and can enjoy themselves and find some entertainment.
How many of these do you think there will eventually be? How many chapters are there?
Oh, of Artificial Fear? Shit, I don't remember.
I mean, is it the 20s, 30s?
We're probably less than halfway through, so maybe there's like 14, 15 chapters.
I'll bet you see a uptick once they're all done. Because I know how I am. If I see somebody who has like 2 or 3 videos, I don't even bother.
Well, I will say this is also fascinating to me is that my first book is, I think, only 90,000 words. It's a short book.
Yeah.
Whereas my current book, I'm less than halfway through. I'm already at like 126,000 words. So.
The unfortunate part is, if it's over 12 chapters, I can't do a single version of it to put on YouTube, which is too bad.
No, that's okay.
YouTube has a 12-hour limit.
Who wants
found
to
out.
listen
I
to
told
that?
you this.
Come on. That's too much.
No, I think because...
No, for an audiobook, I think it's too much.
Well, you would listen to it all in one shot, but it is... I know that I watch a lot of long-form videos, and I like the fact that I basically usually watch an hour chunk at a time, but then I'll just come back and it'll resume, as opposed to having to click on each one.
Yeah, when I listen to things, but I listen on different devices, so I always have to find my spot, you know. But I'm used to when I first started listening to audiobooks, I was still listening to them on audio cassettes, so I'm used to getting like, you know, an hour and maybe 20 minutes or something like that of an audiobook. In fact, the recordings I have of the Gibson audiobooks I have are so old that they are recordings of the fucking cassettes. So at the end of each file, I get this thing that goes, "This is the end of the cassette. Make sure you flip over the cassette for the other side of the recording."
Cassette.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Well, that's. So I pulled my audiobook of Kingdom Come, the audio play or whatever, off of my cassettes before I sold it, so you can hear that like tape hiss in the background. It's fine.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Well, before the show, Joe and I were talking about keyboards, and then I realized, you know what, we should really talk about this during the show, because keyboard nerdery is funny and interesting, and both of us both suffer from it, but for different reasons. So, for a while, I was on laptops, and then I switched off to laptops to having like my. Basically, I'm having trouble seeing the fucking screens on the laptops, because they make the kind of like it. It's so sharp, and yet they don't want. Like, they won't let you just make everything bigger. And like I have really great close vision, but I have really bad distance vision. But the monitors are beginning to pop up kind of in that mid zone, where like it's not quite good for the close vision, and it's not quite good for the far vision. So like I don't know what to do. So I said, "Fuck it, I'll get monitors." And because of that, I had to break out my keyboards. And the thing is, like over the years, I've used a lot of different keyboards for kind of a different typing experience, especially when you type a lot, you know, when you're writing. And I got, years ago now, I got really heavily into mechanical keyboards. So like, I really like the Philcos. And the Philcos are an incredibly boring keyboard. Like, when you look at them, they look like something out of like... They're not sexy. They're not sexy at all. They're just really... They have a really nice, chunky feel to them. But I wanted to do something a little more flash this time. And I had some old Razer keyboards. Before I found the Philcos, I was using the Razer keyboards. Because it was kind of hard. Before I just... there's a website called Mechanical Keyboard. Have you gone there? I'm sure you have.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, so Mechanical Keyboard, they're really good. They import a lot of weird... keyboards. I guess I recently just jumped in to see what they had, and I guess Ducky did a Fallout keyboard that had all the Fallout colors to it. That was kind of neat.
Yeah, I saw that. It's nice.
But I've never used a Ducky keyboard, so I don't know how I'd feel about them. But I used Razors, and then I switched over to Philcos. And so recently I switched. I needed keyboards. So I broke out the keyboards, and I was looking at my Philcos, and I was like, you know what? Let me try the Razors first, because they've got the lights, and it's so lame. But I'm kind of like, yeah, I want something that lights up a little bit, So currently I'm on a, I think this is a 60%. Yeah, I'm on a 60% Razer keyboard, which that is basic. That's just the center typing keys. That's no arrow keys. That's no page up, no page down. That's no number pad. It's just the writing bit. And I like that a lot. I have a 65%, which has the arrow keys. I can't decide which one I like more. But I may have to put the 65% on this computer, because I realize that when you and I start researching stuff, these are the loud keys, and the 65% one I have is the quiet keys. So I may have to switch them out because otherwise it's going to sound like a fucking machine gun when I start typing. You know. Whereas the laptop, that's the one thing I will say for MacBook Pro keyboards. They're fucking quiet. They are, but it's like pounding on, like, I don't know. It's not a good feel.
No.
They haven't.
No.
When's the last really good keyboard you can remember on a laptop?
Oh, on a laptop?
Yeah.
Man.
My Fujitsu Monte Carlo, not to sound like so old, that thing had a really nice keyboard. Oh, you know what? What were they called? The IBM ones, the iBooks? No, what were they called?
No, you mean the Lenovo ThinkPads?
No. Who was it? Was it IBM? There were these. They were like gray, really chunky, no bullshit. They had the nipple mouse in them.
Yeah, that's the ThinkPad.
Yeah, but that wasn't Lenovo.
Isn't
that
Well, no, IBM was subsumed by or was consumed
Oh,
by
okay,
Lenovo.
Yeah. When I was using them, they were IBM.
Lenovo was the last one I remember using that was a really good keyboard. Yeah, with the red thing in the center.
Yeah, the nipple.
ThinkPad.
So, yeah, those had really nice keyboards, and then everyone just got lighter and lighter and lighter, and the keyboards just kind of.
Those are still probably the same. Lenovo has not changed much about the laptops. No, they're still very well regarded as far as.
Everyone kind of switched over to like scissor. Was it the scissor? Scissor
keys. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, which
let's see.
I'm not a fan of.
I'm gonna take a look.
But it's funny
nipple,
because
there you go.
When you go to the store now, like when I used to go to like Best Buy or something like that, there was no good keyboards. They had like that one area that had like just all the the gray, colorless, boring keyboards. And now when you go, it's weird because like I guess gaming keyboards have become a big thing. So there's like tons of like flashy lit super keyboards from all these companies. And then you just gave me another company, right? You gave me Novel Keys?
Novel Keys, yeah.
What do these guys do?
They just make mechanical keyboards, but they offer the ability to basically build your own keyboard. So you can either buy them pre-made, or you can actually select, okay, here's the enclosure, okay, I want this, and now I want to buy these specific keycaps to put into them.
I mean, I did used to switch out all my keycaps. That is one thing.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, all my Philcos, they started out boring, and then they got like weird like rainbow keys across them and everything. They have Star Wars keyboards. Oh, look at that. That's cute. There was this guy on Etsy that used to sell all these hilarious keys, and one of them was just a boob. I used to think that was very funny. I never got one because I thought to myself, who would I be as a person if I had a boob on my keyboard? You know, one of those like statements about yourself that you realize you're like, I'm just not that person.
Yeah, there was that.
But I did think it was funny.
It is funny. I'm currently using the Logitech G915 TKL.
It's got some really nice split keyboards as well. Though I can't do a split keyboard to save my
life.
No,
that's what I'm saying. They have a lot of options. I mean, they are hardcore keyboard people. So.
Yeah, I love the atomic lime green double shot keycaps. Yeah, these are nice ones. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, it's very easy to just ignore. I mean, I think that's the thing is that when computers were still getting big, there was a period there where everybody kind of ignored keyboards, and then all of a sudden, it's like they realize it's the whole. Inevitably, everything gets accessorized, right? Like every aspect of a thing gets accessorized.
The early days of laptops, you were just amazed you could actually carry a computer around. So the laptop, the keyboard was somewhat secondary.
But what I'm saying in general with computers, I mean, like at first you're just amazed you have a keyboard, and then you're like, oh man, can we do something more with this keyboard? And then it's like, then people start fucking around, and then the technology gets more widespread, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, let's change out the keys, and let's make these things different sizes, and let's split them in half. You know, my wife has a split keyboard that's completely like it's not attached at all. There's two different sizes, and then she has she has her touchpad in the middle of them, because the way the way she sits for work and the way her shoulders are, it's better for her to have the Sense Pad right in the middle of the two of them. And Sense Pads in general, I mean, think about it. I use a Sense Pad now on a desktop, but like years ago, I would never think of using a Sense Pad on a computer because I was still gaming on my computer. So like I had those like those high response mouses with like the super twitch, like you'd like you twitch a hand and the thing would just fly across the screen, you know, which is always fun when people would come over and try to use my computer. But
yeah, the mouse goes flying across the screen, and they're like, I barely touched it.
It's like, yeah, well, that's how it works. Yeah.
The DPI set ultra high, baby.
Yeah. Yes, I did. But I don't game anymore because I was tired of chasing the dragon.
Oh.
Yep, because that's the thing. They just keep making these games fucking harder to play because they're just like,
wow.
You need more graphics cards. You need more of this. You know what? Just bring them to me. I'm on the console. I'm good. Oh, I like it. They have a keyboard named Vaporware.
There's a keyboard on that Mechanical Key site that I would
firm.
literally have called Coffee Stain.
Oh yeah,
all the colors are or smoke. Smoke
oh yeah,
like
an old accountant's office from the 80s.
But it's intentionally it's made on purpose.
Yeah.
But, wow, look at this.
No,
thing.
I'm becoming a fan of the light up keyboard, and I think it's because my office is always kind of dimly lit now.
Oh yeah, no, mine changes its color depending on what computer it's connected to, so I always know what it's connected to.
Oh, because you have multiple
color schemes. Yes.
Is that from Novel Keys?
No, the one I have is the Logitech, the G915.
I see. And they also, and then 8-bit does peripherals, you said.
Yes. yeah. Yes.
Explain that. Explain that to our listeners.
8-bit
they don't know what it is.
For those, which has until very recently mostly been known for their controllers, which I have several. So they make kind of universal controllers. And they make many of them to look like the old Nintendo controllers. But they recently started making what they list as accessories. Now, I would say 50% of them are absolute junk, meaning that they're not really things you'd want to use. They're more of, look what I've got type of things. For example, they have a mouse that's essentially an NES controller as a mouse. I cannot imagine what you would do to your wrist using that thing. It looks like an ergonomic disaster. However...
Well, they have just so you know real quick, they have an Amazon store. So if you don't want to go through their website, they also have an Amazon store.
Well, I mean, they sell through Amazon, but I always like to link to the actual sites, of the companies so that you can see all their different stuff, because Amazon doesn't always show you. Amazon will promote their own garbage over them until you actually go to the store. Whereas if you start on the site, it will take you to Amazon to the product. So I prefer going through the sites as opposed to Amazon when possible. So yeah, their accessories, they make keyboards in various different form factors. They have the one, essentially it looks like what they've got is 10 keyless in full. And 10 keyless means that they just don't have the number pad and that thing gets sliced off. But one of the things they make is the 10 key pad itself broken out, what they call the Retro 18 mechanical numpad, and I bought it to use as a calculator because it's adorable. And the version I bought, what is the one I bought called? It's the one that's brownish looking. It is, what style is this one considered? This is considered the C64 version. That's the one I got. But I do actually have one of their keyboards that I use as my work keyboard because it's great. And that is the 10 keyless Super Fami. Is that the one it's called? Let's see. And they only had a couple when I first got it, and now they have quite a few. I probably would have gotten the IBM one, but yeah, I have the... This is considered what? Where's the different... Don't they have the names? The Fami edition. I got the Fami edition. Yeah, and that's the one with like the red and white. And honestly, I've had it for... Well, let's see, it tells me. I've had that one for almost a year now, and it holds up really well. It's actually really good. I like it.
I gotta say the Philcos are fucking bomb-proof. Like if you
now there's a lot of good ones.
Yeah, if you want an old, and that's the thing is that when I got the Philcos, that's like probably 5 years ago now. I mean, 5 years ago in the realm of technology is like forever. But when I was getting those, the Philcos were probably some of the most bomb-proof keyboards out there.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know the Duckies very well, but I was like they were they were okay. I've seen them in stores, but the Philcos I always felt like they were just unbreakable. Like you could use those as a weapon and then go type.
Well, the funny part about the Philcos is from actually having kind of like picked up and moved one around, they're essentially the very really good version of a Dell keyboard. They look exactly like the keyboards.
That's
Dells,
what I mean.
Except
they're very
good
boring
and not junk.
Yeah.
So that's
they're kind of boring. They're boring keyboards.
No, that's what you want.
Oh yeah, there it is. The Bethesda Ducky 75 Fallout Nuka-Cola Project keyboard.
Yeah,
It's red.
Honestly, I don't like it.
It's red and white.
Yeah, I don't like that color scheme for something like that. I would have preferred like the ultra green kind of terminal colors.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah.
That would have been more for me, as if they did everything in almost like a glow in the dark day glow green, kind of a black. That would have been really nice. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, I'm at that
fine.
point now where I just want lit ones because my office is.
Yeah,
really
that's
dim.
the only bad thing about the 8-bit does is they don't yet have one that lights up. Now that's fine for me at work. I never have to worry about lighting, but I would not have. I would get one for myself for home if they make one that lights up. I would probably get one because they have this. It's very hard to communicate something that is a feel thing, but their keys have this marshmallowy chunkiness to them that is so pleasant to type on. I'm not normally somebody who notices that stuff.
No, but that sounds nice.
Normally, I don't care. I just because I hit keys so hard, I don't really even pay attention.
So I have a clacky Razer on this computer I'm on right now, but on my other system, I have the quiet ones, and I really prefer the clacky ones. So like, I was typing on this little one, and I was like, I just like it so much more. Like, there's just a nicer feel with the click 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 click. Whereas the other one has the feel, but there's no sound, and like because there's no sound, I don't feel that kind of nice click feeling right at the end, you know. So yeah. My wife is an incredible typist. Like, she's 10 times better than me, and I do love to sit and listen to her type sometimes. She doesn't have a keyboard now that's clacky because she's got that split one, but before she had that, she had a really clacky one, and it was fucking awesome because sometimes I would hear her typing and it would just be like, I mean, I don't think you're not an amazing typist either, right? You kind of still.
No, I'm terrible.
Yeah, exactly. So you and I, you and I are not that great. The thing is, for a writer, it's very funny that I'm as bad as I am. But anyway, like, I will go a little bit and then I'll fuck up, and then you'll hear me being like, oh, I gotta fix that, and then I'll be like, and I'll be like, fuck. Right? My wife can just go typing, where she's just like, you just hear her like it's like a fucking orchestra going on and on, just like no fuck ups, just keep going. And it's beautiful to listen to. So yeah, I have like a keyboard fetish. I'll admit that.
Oh yeah.
Not sexually, mind you, but you know.
No, I understand.
God, wouldn't that be a thing to have, right?
Wouldn't it?
But yeah, I mean, Mechanical Keyboards has a really nice selection. This place, Novel Keys, is really cool. I'll check them out. 8-bit do is it? So it's 8 bit.
I think it's 8-bit do technically, but I don't really know.
Either way, they have some nice stuff. Yep, and everyone's got their preference. I mean, you know, everyone's got the kind of keyboard that feels good to them. I know that Apple recently got Corsair to make them a 10 keyless Mac keyboard, and that's fascinating to me because there are no Mac keyboards out there. Like that is the issue I have with like all the Philcos and everything. Everyone makes these keyboards for Windows because that's kind of the wider margin, right? Yeah. But the fact that, you know, Apple really finally got someone to make a mechanical keyboard just for them. Problem is, it's exclusive to their fucking website, so you can't even see it in a store. Because I went to the Apple store to see if they had one, just so I could get a feel for it. They don't have one out, so I'm kind of like, well, you know, do you have a Corsair? You don't have a Corsair.
For a keyboard?
Yeah.
No, I have the Logitech because
Logitech. That's what you have.
Yeah.
I don't know Corsair. I use their I've used their mice.
Corsair's good. The thing is, my my association for Corsair is memory, because that's what I know them from. Is when they made memory. Now they do more, but my peripherals, to me, I've stuck with Logitech because they have been the most reliable overall. And that's kind of my approach to everything is, well, if it doesn't screw me, I'm going to stick with it. And Logitech has, and they've said some things lately that make me wonder how long that's going to last. But
it's funny you should bring up getting screwed, because when I was at Best Buy recently, I saw that HP is still doing their Voodoo line.
Oh God!
And I was shopping for a new monitor, and they have HP Voodoo monitors, and my wife was like, "Well, how about one of these?" And I was like, "Fuck those assholes forever," and I walked away.
Wow.
So, if you don't know why HP Voodoo can fuck themselves forever, go back and listen to some of the previous shows.
Oh, yeah. I do like, and this is one thing about Logitech, they actually have a page where you can hear the clicks of each of their keys, which I think is outstanding.
Oh, see,
so on that page I just sent you, you can play the sound of each one, so that you can determine what you want.
See, it's not even the click. It's not the sound that does it for me. Like you said, it's the feel. There's something about that.
Well, and that's why I got the clicky, because that's got the clicky feel.
The click. Yeah. Yes, I suppose you're right. Yeah. But I mean, they've made ones that have the clicky feel and don't have a sound, and that's just it feels right, but like it's weird that there's
It sounds wrong.
Yeah, it sounds wrong. And now they oil them as well. I've seen that there's like a bunch of companies that oil their keys or something like that to make them not so. Yeah, it's just weird. So it's the it's the over it's the fetishizing. It's the over
everything else. Just like anything.
Yeah.
Once you get into the weeds of it, people do some weird stuff.
And some of it's a lot of fun.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that there's some people who do some weird stuff.
And
that's okay, because sometimes people accidentally find something out doing that. I don't have a problem with it.
They learn about themselves.
Well, there is that. But also they may discover something about, there was something, I can't remember. There was just something in the news about some accidental thing that they've discovered is, I don't remember what it was. But it was one of those kind of things. It was somebody who was doing something completely unrelated and kind of
that's usually how they discover things.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So if somebody, using bird poop to grease their keyboard discovers that makes springs last 8 times longer, well, hey, good work. I don't know if that's actually done. I'm just saying that those are the kind of weird tangential directions that can lead to some interesting...
Oh my God, this keyboard looks like a block of cheese.
Which one's that?
It's called. I mean, it's super expensive. It's called the Keywork Swiss Cheese Board Bare Bones DIY Keyboard Kit.
Is that a Novel Keys one?
Yeah, no, this is a mechanical keyboard, and it looks like a block of cheese.
Yeah.
That is so. Oh my God! It's all aluminum. Holy shit!
Ooh,
it's a giant block of aluminum cheese. Oh, jeez, that's crazy.
Now you know why it's expensive.
That's why it's expensive, yeah.
Solid aluminum. Solid aluminium.
I don't know if I need solid aluminium.
Well, let's put it this way. You better hope you don't give yourself a shock.
Jeez. Yeah, I'm not going to build myself a keyboard. I'm not that good.
I think the Novel Keys ones, they make ones that don't require a lot of expertise. It's really just kind of you just push the keys in.
Listen, I can replace keys. That's about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's one of the things I like is that they do have a line of ones where you don't have to know how to solder anything. Because I don't do any of that crap either. I don't care enough to learn. I don't.
Exactly. So. Yes. So, well, I wanted to talk about this next thing because it's very weird.
What a segue! Go ahead.
No, I have no segue for this, and I didn't want to casually.
I just love the whole. I wanted to talk about this next thing. Well, that is generally how.
No. And I said because it's important, but I didn't want to have some kind of smooth segue into it because it's kind of serious in a weird way. If this, I don't want to talk about the good or bad of the assassination of a.
I covered this in my 5 for this.
Oh, did you?
Of
the
healthcare
CEO, right? I don't want to talk about the right and wrong. What I am amazed by is the human response online. Okay,
yes, this is exactly what I talked about.
Oh, is it? Okay, because
only partially. I had 2 responses. One, we'll talk about this. I'll let you do this part. One was the response to it, but the other was my astonishment that I didn't think about this because it just.
Yeah.
This event is one of those things that when you sit there and actually consider it, I'm shocked it hasn't happened more.
But listen, you and I have joked about stuff like this, like why aren't people assainating?
But in seriousness, I'm sitting here going, how has this not happened before?
How has this not happened before? Yeah.
You don't have to look that hard to find people who have been utterly devastated by what should be illegal moves by their companies. So, but the other part was
here's the thing: is that you and I have talked many times about the fact that the The very nature of cyberpunk is the idea that the corporations are out to fuck you. And I've talked about this. The entire creation of a corporation is to make money. That's really all it is. It's not there to feed the people. It's not there to make the best product. No, really, it's just there to make money for its shareholders, right? That's all they care. It is a psychopath, amoral system. And if you ever, turned it into some kind of AI, it would be Skynet. At the end of the day, the end of the world would be brought around by Skynet looking for more money for its shareholders, which it would then inadvertently wipe out to find more money for its shareholders. Right? This is so, but it's the human response. Like, the absolute joyous vitriol that I have seen online, and I continue to see, like, there are T-shirts. People took the photograph of him or the video still of him shooting the guy, right? And they made T-shirts out of it that you can buy. Like it's like a hand-drawn picture of that photograph. People are just like, you know what? Fuck them. Like left and right, I see that. People are going about, what is his he had a precondition, lead poisoning. Like all this.
Yes, I saw that one.
Yes, all this shit. And just an endless amount of people coming out going, you know what? My mom was, they rejected her claim that she needed and she died of cancer and pain, or they rejected my wife for this and we lost a baby, or and then this comes on the heels of a healthcare company going, we're going to charge you. If your surgery goes over a certain time, we're going to charge you for the anesthesia.
Yeah,
At which
they
point,
reversed that.
You saw they reversed that real quick, right?
Oh, very quickly, yes.
Yeah, they reversed that, and all the information about the CEOs of companies has been coming down off their websites.
Yes. Off almost all of them.
And now people are posting that information back on the internet for others to see. I saw one guy who posted the names of every CEO of every healthcare company and basically said, I really worry about these people. It would be a shame if anything happened to them. Make sure you watch out for them, and then posted photos and names of all of them. It's just, it's been a strange thing to watch. And the thing is, listen, I have my own vitriol. I have my own irritation. There is a certain level of, it's that phrase, if you live by the gun, you die by the gun. If you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
That's right.
If you live your life in the sole pursuit of profit, do not be surprised that something bad happens. And when it does, there is a very small group of people that mourn you. And like, I'm not going to argue the right and wrong of this. I'm just astounded by the outpouring of human discontent. And then what's making it worse is I saw this great thing about how, the media and the police are just making it worse by showing that there's a 2-tier system to giving a shit about murders. They're like, so many people get murdered in New York every year. But this guy, we really got to find out who killed this guy.
Well, they said that there was an immigrant kid, I think, who was just killed by a bunch of people asking him if he spoke English, and there's no coverage of it. Yet the United Healthcare CEO dominates everything.
Yeah, and that goes back
I would
to the
say,
whole...
no kidding. Indigenous and like sex worker killings have been nothing. There's so many podcasts devoted to the idea of the invisible victims, and there are a lot of them. Yeah,
listen, isn't that the detective story right there? It's the whole, someone comes to a private detective because the police don't have time or give a shit about the murder or disappearance of a person. Like that comes from somewhere, that sentiment. So I'm just amazed. And honestly, what amazes me more is the way that people on the other side of this are reacting with kind of like such indignation, where they're like, I can't understand why people would feel this way. And it's like, really? You don't? If you, as one of these corporate higher echelon people, don't understand the hatred, then you're either an idiot or you're blowing smoke. Because, Jesus, like somebody posted something about how the CEO for healthcare was responsible for the more death of people than like Osama bin Laden, and they did the math on all the number of people who basically died from having healthcare orders rejected, and it's like, wow, yeah, it's just, and listen, to be political, I have always thought that it was a mistake that Obama didn't create a government option. Yeah. You know, I always felt that it was a thing that he should have done. This idea, I mean, I know that it would have been an uphill battle, and he probably thought he couldn't get it through. But it's the fact that I think what pissed me off is when they did the whole Obamacare thing. They were like, right, everyone needs to have insurance now, but we're not going to give you a government option that would really scare the shit out of insurance companies. That was like super cheap. Even if they didn't make it free, if they just made like a dirt cheap version of insurance, so everyone at least had something, right? And then that would scare insurance companies and be like, shit, we have to make more, plans and be more competitive. But right now, they're not competing with each other. They're basically just being like, hey, let's see how high we can push these costs. Like, they don't give a shit. And that's the thing, is that once you have an entity that is for profit, its whole priority is just to make money. Like, and that goes for everything. Like, that's not just healthcare. That is just the problem of corporations. Where it's like, I mean, bread, right? Why is there formaldehyde in the bread, guys? That's a chemical that hurts people. Why is there, why are there so many poisonous chemicals? Why are there so many cheap ingredients in food supply? People running around going, oh, why are all these strange illnesses cropping up? And no one stops and says, hey, maybe it's the food supply. Maybe it's the pollution. Maybe it's any number of things. Maybe it's corporations that have the single pursuit of monetary wealth over all things and don't give a shit about the arsenic content of their products or the lead content. I mean, one of the things I love about your state, Joe, is that they always are like, hey, you know what? We're going to post whether something has any kind of cancerous effect. Well, Jesus Christ, that's fucking everything. Every product you buy, at one point
that's
you
true.
get to that.
You cannot walk into a building without that thing.
Yeah, and then it says, the state of California says, blah, 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 this shit'll kill you in a certain, measured amount. Yeah. So, I don't know if this is the beginning of something. I don't know if I want it to be the beginning of something. But the distance that it has already gone is fascinating. And I am waiting to see if it happens again. Because the thing is, we have a country full of guns, and for the longest time, they've all been pointed at school children and women who are like going to get abortions and wives. And I mean, like, the country has a gun problem, but none of the people that really love the guns have been in danger. And I'm kind of curious, like, if suddenly people start shooting at the wrong people, will gun control become a thing? Like if you've got, I mean, like, I don't know what the political agenda of this guy is, but if you suddenly, let's say theoretically, he's, I don't even know. I can't even say. I don't want to be like, oh, maybe he's a liberal. I have no fucking idea. Nobody does. Because you don't know what the nature of a murder is, right? But if people start shooting CEOs and
look, I don't think it matters. I think that if I don't think that political orientation matters if it comes out and I just have to assume that either this individual or someone, this is my real suspicion, someone related to him or dear to him has died as the result of something. Political orientation goes out the window. We've seen that time. I mean, this is like the family values people who suddenly reverse when their daughter is raped and now has a child. And they're like, you know what? I was against abortion, but I've rethought my position.
Yeah.
Oh, have you? Oh,
I've changed my mind just this one time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's, or people who are utterly against capital punishment until somebody like their mother gets murdered. And so they're like, I'm thinking maybe we should let people get torn apart by dogs in a public forum when they murder somebody. It happens. This is the reality. This is finding God.
You know what?
What is it? Finding faith in a foxhole or whatever. It's like you can. There's lots of things that change.
There's no atheist in a foxhole. Yeah.
That's it. I knew I wasn't doing it right. It's
which
one of those
I
things.
don't know if I believe that, but either way, I
don't either. But
I have a fantasy
let's put it this
novel.
way: I believe it's probably more common than not. I'll say it like that.
I have a fantasy novel. It's on the docket. It's when I finish this book I'm working on right now. It's my next book. So like I'm half kind of background working on it in my head, and I sometimes write scenes for it. And one of the things I came up with in my book was that in this vaguely Victorian fantasy steampunk era, the way that they deal with essentially like corporal punishment, right, is that rather than hang people or guillotine them, right, they have a huge square in the middle of the city that's got essentially like a giant, almost like an anvil in the middle. And those that have been basically found criminal and are being put to death, they walk you out, they put your head down on the anvil, and they have an executioner who smashes your head to death with a giant sledgehammer, right? And I was like, maybe that's too savage, maybe not. And then this is one of the weird things about being a writer, is that sometimes then a character in your own head will explain to you in that character's point of view why it makes sense, right? Because I was talking to my wife about this, is that very often we bring our own biases to an environment, and it's good to try to understand the context of a thing outside of yourself. So I thought, okay, why is an execution like that in this time frame a good thing? Why do they think it's worth doing? And the idea is that it's so brutal and it's so awful that nobody wants it to happen to them. Because it's not like, oh, you lay down on the table and they gas you. Like, don't be wrong, I'm sure that probably hurts too. What do you call it? Lethal injection. But getting your head bashed to death with a sledgehammer, like, you're lucky if the first, second, third, or fourth hit kills you. The hope is that you get knocked unconscious at some point in there, right? But, like, the mess that creates, like, just the sheer bloody, like show of it. And you know that the crowd will come watch because people are fucking crazy. It's the same reason that all the guillotines had massive audiences, right? And it's kind of like, I understand the concept of corporal punishment within that paradigm. I just don't think it works the same today, because we want to kill well, first off, we're not sure if people did it. And I think it's very easy in like fantasy novels for them to be like, wow, this guy did it, and it's a novel, so you could be like, yeah, he did it, we have proof, right? But in the modern age, how often are people found guilty and then 10 years down the line, they're like, oh, he didn't do it. The cops manufactured evidence because they just really wanted to catch somebody. It wasn't this guy at all. I mean, he was just in prison for 10 years. Or he's unlucky and they executed him. That's the problem with corporal punishment. But otherwise, we don't want anyone to suffer. Like, we want corporal punishment, but we want them to just fall asleep and daintily, skip away from life. And I guess my mindset's always been, well, if you're a bad person and you did do it, right? Then, do I give a shit about your comfort level when you die? Like, if we're going to do this, then, maybe we just do this. Maybe it doesn't need to be humane. Maybe you lose the right to humane treatment when you do something inhumane. You know what I mean? There's that story about the Midwest, I can't remember what it was, where the dad was, he had some sort of party. It was like a farm, and he had a party, and they were showing off these horses and everything like that. And he went inside and he found one of these guys who was visiting with kind of horse equipment or something. It was molesting his daughter. And he beat the guy to death with his bare hands. And I'm kind of like, yeah, that makes sense to me. I don't think that guy should go to jail. He caught someone molesting his child. He beat him to death. That sounds like fair play to me. You don't deserve humane behavior if you yourself are inhumane. And I know people will say, well, we have to be better than it was that whole line. We have to be bigger than them. We have to be bigger than them, and we have to do the right thing. And it's like, I don't know. I think that I think that a balance between the right thing and the wrong thing is kind of the better way to walk at this point, because if you don't trim the branches off the bonsai tree will die. So that's my complicated relationship with the concept of corporal punishment. And I don't even know what we were talking about before that. We were talking about killing CEOs, weren't we? And the fanfare they're in.
Yes. The delight.
I mean, it's crazy. It is so crazy. I go on Imgur and I have a game now where I'm like, how far do I have to go before something pops up about this?
Oh,
and
not far.
No, I get 4 or 5 posts down, and then somebody's posted something.
Mm-hmm.
That's either like, go fuck yourself because my mother died because of you assholes, or my wife, or my kids, or it's hey, look at this funny picture, and it's like making fun of it, or yeah. So if this is what we're in for in the next 4 years, it's gonna be fucking weird.
Yeah, the gist of my 5 was that I don't think anybody should cry over any tears over it, but I don't know that we want to be delighting in the death of a human being, deserved or not. That's
what my wife said to me.
Well,
my wife is like, he had a wife and he had kids.
I don't even care about that, honestly. I think it's just that once you start celebrating the death, even of the most vile person, again, I'm not saying you should be sad. Indifference is fine. Not caring is fine.
I know,
I think when you
but
start
here's the thing.
Celebrating, you start becoming like them slowly.
I'm going to argue this with you, right? No, that's the whole let's be bigger than them thing, right? But here's the thing. Being bigger than them has not worked. And justice and the legal system, which is supposed to protect people, especially the little ones, doesn't work either because they buy the courts.
Well, all right. Wait. Okay. Because I'm sorry, I don't accept that. And here's why. Because there is a gulf, and I've complained about this in many 5s. There is a gulf between this being bigger than them hasn't worked and delighting in death. And that's a middle ground where people enjoy being apathetic until they decide to be unapathetic.
So don't
like, well, what have you voted for? What have you done?
On. So I want to understand. So don't delight in the death. But you can sit there and go, well, he did it to himself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't think anybody should find any remorse over it.
Okay,
or
there you go.
Bad feelings.
That's what I want to find. I want to find that line with you because.
Well, yeah.
I'm not saying that we should listen. I'm not saying that there should be a parade. I'm just looking at this guy going, what did you expect?
Well, no. Yes, that part's fine. I'm not saying anybody should feel. I didn't watch any of the video. I haven't seen anything of it because I don't need to. I just have no need for seeing any of that. But let's say I had watched the video of the guy getting shot. You know what I would have felt? Nothing. I wouldn't have felt remorse and I wouldn't have felt celebration because I'd be like, okay. And that's why I didn't bother watching it because I don't care. Yeah. I don't know him. No, I have no reaction.
But what's fascinating is what he represents and the fact that someone killed him and so many people are overjoyed. And the thing is that
you know
for
what
the
I would
longest
say to some of the people overjoyed? Here's what I'd say to some of these people. How are you voting? Are you looking up voting records? Are you demanding these things change? Or do you just whine about it on the internet? And then this is my honest to God fucking frustration with these people. A lot of these people, not all, a lot of people just love to whine on social media platforms about all the things that we should change. And then when it comes to voting time, they don't vote because they're like, well, my vote doesn't count. Well, then shut the fuck up.
No, you always
I'm sorry,
vote.
You have to do something.
You always vote.
Have to, and not only vote, do some goddamn research. Do not simply go, well, Republican evil, Democrat evil. Look at what these people have done and see if they actually align with your values and let the letter or whatever party fall to the wayside.
Listen, I'll say, I'm from Vermont. Well, I was from Vermont. I'm from Jersey now. But when I was from Vermont, listen, there are Republicans in Vermont that I voted for because, like, I read about them and I liked the things that they did. There's a lot of Democrats I voted for. There was a lot of liberals. There was a lot of libertarians. Like, Vermont's had a Republican governor now for years, and it's because he's not fucking crazy. And honestly, he balances out, in my opinion, the Senate, who is far more liberal than he is, and they tend to. But the thing is, like, he's a very sort of mild Republican, so everything kind of works because he's not crazy. and the nobody else is crazy. It isn't a Trumpian sort of environment. Everybody is very civil, and yes, they disagree, but they have discourse on the matter. And he's been over, they've what do you call it when they do the over? They've overridden him a few times when they disagreed with him, and they had enough votes, and like that's the way it's supposed to work, right? I mean, ideally, you're supposed to have civil discussion. People can agree to disagree. They can talk about this shit, and we can try to find a middle ground. The problem is that it's just gotten so echo chambered to the extremes that no one's talking anymore. Actually, I just finished. I guess this is a weird segue. I just finished the first season of Diplomat, and the husband, what's his name? The guy from Dark City. What's his name? The main guy.
I just went right out of my head. There's an E on one of the names, right? Isn't there an E somewhere?
Damn it. Anyway, yeah. So the guy from Dark City, he plays the husband in The Diplomat. He gives this great speech at one point that starts off crazy, and then you're kind of like, no, that makes sense to me. And this is the idea of we should talk to everybody. He's like, we have this whole policy with like, don't talk to terrorists.
I just grabbed
Rufus
my Dark
Sewell,
City
there you go.
Blu-ray. Dark City.
Yeah.
Rufus Sewell.
No,
No E. He's got E's in his last name. Sorry, I don't know where that came from.
So he turns around and he says, yeah, you should talk to everybody. He goes, they say don't talk to terrorists. He's like, I don't believe that. He goes, I think you talk to everybody. He's like, because if you talk to everybody, he's like, there's the chance, the opportunity that you might be able to find middle ground, that you might be able to move things, that you might be able to make things happen, that you might realize that you aren't as fucking far apart as you thought you were. And it's the whole, normalizing difference. It's the whole, you're the other right up until the moment that you talk to each other and realize, oh no, we're not that different. We are amazingly similar all over this planet, and yet we focus so much on the things that separate us. And that's what's happening in this country, where like there's this massive chasm now that's being formed, and it's like, guys, we're not that far apart. Like it's really not that. It's not as far as you think it is. I mean, yes, there are political elements that people want, but it's almost like people don't understand the mechanics of how some of these things work, like the healthcare, right? Mm-hmm. People don't actually do any research to understand how healthcare works and how important it is for them to get involved, right? But here's the thing. I also don't think that the approach of going beyond the system is something that should be ignored. I do think that there's a massive chasm in the justice system, and I do think that it's an uphill battle. And I do think that, if you have no other recourse, you know what? It's your right to take up arms. I don't disagree with that. Like, I don't think it's good, and I'm not overjoyed about it. But when you feel you're in a system where there is no hope, and that's different from going into a school and shooting up a bunch of kids who have nothing to do with anything, right? But if you walk into if you want to take a shot at a political official, and then accept the repercussions of your actions, right? That's up to you as an individual. There is a system that will try and stop you. And if they catch you, they may arrest you and they may kill you. And that's something that you're going to have to accept for the trajectory of your life. I'm not overjoyed at the idea. I'm not positive about the idea, but I accept that it is a thing. And I'm not going to say that it isn't a path that some people may take. There's a reason that presidents have security. I mean, there's a reason that healthcare CEOs now have a lot more bodyguards, right? And honestly, I think that fear is a good thing. If you're going to make life and death decisions about so many people's lives, I think it should give you pause. I think you should have to think about it. I think anyone in power should have to think about the repercussions of their decisions. And I don't mean because, someone will kill you at any step of the way, but I mean, you should have to think about the life and death repercussions of the decisions you make over other people's lives. And like, not just in healthcare. I mean, just in anything. Oh man, what was that? There was a French car CEO, and he fired like 25,000 French workers in a day. Have you read about this? And then they shot him.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, and you're like, okay, well, you know what? There was the response of the populace. You did something intense, and the populace was like, no, fuck you, man. And it's like, I'm not overjoyed about it. I'm just saying that is something that happens. That is a choice that people can make. And I think that for a long time, you've had a lot of people who are insulated by their money, thinking that they're untouchable. And suddenly, I think that this one act has made a lot of corporate individuals say, holy shit, I am far more touchable than I thought. And you're like, yeah, if people get angry enough. I mean, listen, the French Revolution is not a fiction. The French Revolution is a period of history in France that went on for a while. And first it destroyed the people, it destroyed the rich and powerful, and then it basically turned on itself for a while. And and then in the end they ended up with Napoleon. But I mean, yeah, it's an interesting period in history, and watching. I think everyone should read about the French Revolution, because it's an interesting and kind of tragic idea of what happens in a society where people just feel like they're pushed too far, where it's desperate and there's nothing, there's no movement, and you just feel shit on, and then you proceed to destroy everything. It's like, well, where do you land? Where do you land after that? So, oddly, my mother was a huge French Revolution kind of like fan. And she's read like a ton of books on it. So growing up, it was like a topic that my mother would often talk about, which is weird because she's a Republican. So like she was just massively fascinated by like how society goes wrong. But then she also had a deep fascination with Napoleon. So I shouldn't say anything. I have a deep fascination with World War II. So it's that whole idea of what happens in society when things go horribly wrong. Which I would say that in that respect, the French Revolution and a world war are similar in that they are both examples of things going horribly wrong in society. Yeah. You want me to move on to something lighter?
Well, I mean, a lot of what you're talking about, I've talked about many times, which is that.
No, we agree on a lot of this.
No. In other words, that what you're talking about is accountability on those who have control over other people's lives. And you can apply that to healthcare CEOs, politicians, the cops. There's lots of places where if you have the ability to harm someone else, you should be accountable for your actions, period. And where people can hold people accountable, they should. And that's my other end of the problem is it's real easy to blame CEOs and everybody else. I'm not saying you shouldn't. But like I said, if you're sitting there and, I've said this many times. In California, I don't know if every state does this, but we get this book. We get two, in fact, that explain in detail every proposition that's going to be voted on, every politician, and most people take those and they throw them in the recycling bin and they don't even ever look at them, whereas I spend 2 to 3 hours with each of those books and I figure out what I'm voting for. And when people just want to gleefully, say whatever, and for a fact, just based on what they say, that they're clearly not doing any research and they're not actually doing anything, but either repeating what they see on another site or just going by whatever the wave of the moment is, it irritates me because I find some of those people are as culpable as the people that they're cheering for the death of. If you do nothing, you don't bother, you're every bit as responsible. I mean, if you don't exercise the basic mechanisms of accountability, now that doesn't apply with the United Healthcare CEO because in some cases you don't have an option. So, but there are politicians who, if you actually supported them, who want to reform this stuff, then it would change. If we demanded things, and I don't know that it has to be a bunch of people marching on an office with machine guns. I don't.
No, but I also think the other part of this is that I think people also vote with their money. Like I hate in the same way that Citizens United said, "Well, money is speech." Well, here's the thing: if money is speech, then talk back, because the whole idea is, if you don't like what a company's doing, take your money away from them. There's no better way to destroy a company than to just take your fucking money away. The problem is that this is the Amazon problem, and I'm just using them because they're kind of, they're everywhere. Which is that if you don't like Amazon, if you don't like what Bezos is doing, right, and Bezos has done some shady shit, don't buy from Amazon. If everyone stops buying from Amazon, Amazon goes away. Amazon goes away virtually overnight, right? The problem is that there's a lot of people who disagree with Amazon, but then they really like things that Amazon does. Hey, listen, Amazon hosts my books. So for me to walk away from Amazon, right, I got to take all my books down, right?
Within this very show.
Yeah.
Remember when I sent you the 8-Bit Dough link? You said, here's their Amazon page. And I said, no, I don't link to the Amazon page.
Yeah. Well, when I clicked, the funny thing is when I clicked on one of their keyboards, it took me directly to Amazon.
I know, but that's my habit, because yes, 8-Bit Dough is a bad example in that, yes, they sell everything through Amazon. Yeah. However,
no, if you can go direct to a company, bypass the middleman.
I link to everybody. I link to the company's website, even if it is Amazon, because I don't know which ones do and don't. So I default to I will not link to Amazon if I can help it.
Yeah, but so Amazon is an easy example.
It's a small thing. Yeah, but I used to send everybody an Amazon link. I don't even with like books. I don't do it now. I try not to. If I can find like a author page, you know what? Whatever.
I don't mind doing it with books because in my mind, that's what Amazon is. Amazon's a bookstore.
Well, sure, but I'd rather send somebody to the author's page, and then if they end up in Amazon, that's fine. But the idea that you default to Amazon is the same thing as defaulting
I like
to
buying
Google,
books in person. I do that when I can.
I also don't say Google it. I say search for it. And some people will say, well, so what? It's just a different word. Yeah, I know, but it's the intent.
No, but language matters. Because you normalize a thing by using the word for it. Yeah.
Right.
My mother used a term the other day that was like it was so disgusting. And it won't translate well, but like my mother's there's sometimes with my mom where I realize she's very son of old school farm stock, right? Like there's some phrasings that she used where I'm like, oh my God, that's like trucker shit right there. And especially with Spanish, my wife and my daughter are both taking Spanish classes now because I think they're tired of my mother and I just kind of talking Spanish around them. But my mother was talking about when she was younger and somebody losing their virginity to a certain male. And the phrase that she used literally translates to, well, he ate her first. Now, she's not talking about oral sex, but it's the idea that a male was the first person to consume a female. And the way she's, and like, it's the phrasing, it's the Spanish slang from like, of her, of her period. But the way she used it, the mental imagery of it was just so gross. So just as I was related to one of these people. And it's like, yeah, man, words matter, Plus I found out that my mother calls she called her father Papi. And I hate that so much. Because you know how I feel about that word.
Yeah.
Especially I Papi. Oh, God. But yes. Yeah, words matter. The words you use for stuff matters. And it's because language is magic, man. Language is how you envision the world. And if you Google everything, then Google becomes an everyday thing that is benign. It is part of your universe. Hey, let's Google it. Hey, no. Look that shit up. Right? It's... Oh, see? Yeah, it's terrible. But it's, that's not that bad because your wife is terrible at saying that.
I know.
It's such a white girl approach. It's when you get like Rosie Perez doing it. It grates on me like fucking, which is not an invitation to find Rosie Perez doing it, because I know you and I know what you're doing now. But yeah, so you got to speak with your money, and the thing is that we don't want to discomfort ourselves, so it makes it difficult to get people to do shit. Because listen. Elon Musk is only around because people keep buying Teslas and the fact that he's got so many government contracts. But you know what? If he lost all the Tesla money, right? What else? He does Tesla. He does SpaceX. Is there anything else that he does?
Well,
he has the Boring Company, but they don't really do
really
shit.
Do anything. Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, well, I was saying. So, like, if people stop buying Teslas, right? Elon Musk would only have his government contracts, and I'm convinced that he would lose a lot of money. But honestly, I wonder if he makes so much money now off the government contracts. I wonder if killing Tesla would even hurt him at this point. Because I mean, he destroyed Twitter.
I do think a lot of his worth is tied up in that, so I want to say it would. Yeah, I think so.
Curious, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how you would monetarily hurt him.
But I mean, this gets into the way that money is done and who can help.
Well, that's the other thing too. How multi-leveled some people have made.
I mean,
themselves.
how his
the
worth
whole
actually
idea that
isn't how much money he has, but how much his companies or how much stock he's.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's the idea of how much money you can like get loans against, like how much are you worth, and how much money can you request. Anything. So if you disagree with a company or the CEO of a company, then do your best to put your money elsewhere. Now, in the case of healthcare companies, they all kind of suck. So I'm sorry, there's not really far you can go, but you can find a different suck. If we all systematically went from one healthcare company to another, everyone just leaving, we would just systematically kill them. But then we'd end up with a monopoly, which you can't have in this country theoretically. So then and then they'd have to make more. Would they then have to break up the last company? Here's a thought experiment. If we as a people in this country all left every healthcare company systematically, we all jumped to another one and left like one with no money and then kept doing that until they all went bankrupt except for one, would the government then have to break up that last one into many smaller pieces because it was a monopoly? I mean, isn't that how that law works?
Yeah, I mean, probably there would have to be some kind of... If there was no way for it to self-correct, probably.
Yeah.
I would have to ask somebody who knows better, but it makes sense.
I know that's not going to happen, but your money speaks louder than your words. Sometimes I think your money speaks louder than a vote. So, if you stop sending money to people, if you stop buying their products, then you know what? That goes further. And the thing is if you do give them money, then to some degree you do support some of the things that they do. Like, I do feel guilty that Amazon has my books, but I have nowhere else that I can post them. But I'm also at that point in my life where, you know what? I'm not really making much off them. So if somebody was like, really, let's fuck Amazon, I could pull them down and just keep going in my life. It's that kind of thing. But convenience is difficult because we like it. We've talked about this before. Is that, we are sliding to apocalypse on the greased, the greased springs of convenience. Not springs. What's the word I'm looking for? Not sprockets. Gears. The greased gears of convenience. Right? Everything is so easy. And we don't want to have to do the work. We don't want to have to not have these nice things that make life easy and convenient. I mean, it's the whole, we complain about, health. We complain about, Americans are so fat. And you're like, well, to some degree, we have to make better choices as people. Like, that's one thing where, like, yeah, you know what? There's a lot of bad food out there. It's not McDonald's fault, that you want to eat it all. Should McDonald's make better food? Ideally, yes. But you know what? They don't have to because you're buying the shit they're giving you. I was going to
say, not if nobody buys it. I mean, they wouldn't
Yeah,
survive.
Exactly. So as long as you keep buying the shit they're pumping out, they're not going to make healthy food unless you abandon them. Right? And that's kind of this twofold problem where you want the comfort and joy of McDonald's and you don't care how it's destroying your body. They don't care how it's destroying your body because they're still getting paid. And thus the system goes on. Until the next set of victims get old enough, so it's multifaceted and difficult, and we'll see what happens. Jesus, here we are at the hour mark already, or beyond.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me tell you about some.
Having fun. Yeah.
Let me tell you about some TV stuff that I think you might find interesting. So I finished the first season of The Diplomat.
Yeah.
And it is hugely enjoyable. Rufus Sewell is fantastic. I forgot the name of the lead. What the hell is her name?
Kerry Russell.
Gary Russell, that's her name.
Yeah.
Gary Russell's great. I've become kind of a fan. I like the way that they have set her up, where she's a very sort of no bullshit politician. And I like the cast of characters. There is a very sort of West Wing feel in that they know that, like, okay, we're setting up our characters, and then we're going to have them all move around each other, and different things are going to happen. I didn't think that they were going to be able to keep the whole storyline of a British aircraft carrier getting bombed as like the center of the whole season, but they really have, and it's fantastic. I mean, it's well written, it's fun, it has moments of seriousness, but there's still moments of comedy and levity all the way through. I'm enjoying it hugely and looking forward to the second season. So I mean, it's kind of the best review I can give a show. I mean, it definitely feels like it has it smacks of the legacy of West Wing. And I know that it goes right into season 2. Season 2 is already out, so I will be curious to see if they try to end this with season 2, because they do the cliffhanger thing in season 1. If there wasn't a season 2 of this show, you'd never be able to watch it, because like it ends on one of those irritating cliffhangers that we both So, but other than that, it's been a fantastic show to watch. So that's kind of my quick review of it. I don't need to get into the details of it. I talked about it before. It's very good. Kerry Russell's excellent. Rufus Sewell. You know, I've liked him since Dark City, and I felt bad because I never felt like he has a bad guy look to him, doesn't he?
Yes. Yeah, I think he
gets typecast.
Yeah,
so
he's bounced around in things, but he's never really been as big as I feel like he should have been.
And as the thing in the show, like, as Kerry Russell's husband, who's also a diplomat, so she's been a diplomat, he's a diplomat, and arguably he's better at it, but he's also, as they explain, everything he does, even the good things, has kind of an equal reaction to it. So he does this thing that's really good, but then in the wake of that, something really bad happens.
I mean,
so, like,
the thing though is he has done a lot of stuff. If you look,
he's been
things.
around. Yeah.
So yeah.
But what I mean is, like, he's very often the bad guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, that's why Dark City is kind of such a strange movie, because he's not a classic lead for that kind of thing.
Right.
You know, so I like the fact that he's in this and he's funny. He's probably one of the funniest parts of the show. And he's very clever, and the writing is very well done. So yeah, I always go on about how I want good writing. This show is good writing. I like it. I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, since it's about an American diplomat in England. But especially since in West Wing, a situation like this gets solved in like 2-3 episodes. But it's like almost like a detective show at this point, because you don't really know fully what's going on, and part of the show is her getting used to being a diplomat, and the other part of the show is the fact that there is this big mystery about who the fuck bombed the ship, and everyone's pointing fingers at everybody else, and all these different countries want to go to war. And so I think you'll enjoy it. I haven't seen season 2, but season 1 is very, very good, and if you're looking for, like I said, some of that West Wing vibe, I think you'll enjoy it. But I want to talk about another show now really quickly that has taken me by surprise. So, did you read anything about Clive Owen's new detective show?
Yeah, I read it was good. But
hold on, I want to give you the exact name of it. You can hear me clicking away here. Let's see. Monsieur Spade. Yeah, it's called Monsieur Spade. So the idea of this show, right, is that Sam Spade from, was it the Maltese Falcon?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Yeah. So basically, he had this big career in America, right, as this amazing private eye. But, it's not a good life, because as a detective, you're always dealing with other people's problems, and, you smoke too much and you drink too much. And the idea is that he comes to the south of France to essentially to bring a little girl to her father, and he's doing it for a woman who died recently, who he put in jail at one point. And then when she got out of jail, she started kind of doing her whole crime thing, but elsewhere. And I think I don't know I can't remember what she died of now. I think she died of cancer. But she knew that Sam Spade was an upstanding guy. She knew that he would, if you paid him and he promised he would do something, that he would do it. So the idea is that he went to the south of France to find this girl's father and hand her over. And when he got there, what they're doing is they're telling two stories at the same time. So part of the story is about why he stayed, and part of the story is what's going on now. And it's sad because when he first gets there, he's still that grizzled detective with the, with chain smoking, with the fedora and the trench coat. I mean, like, this show is just dripping with like film noir detective stereotypes, right? But the joke of it is that it's in the south of France. So when he gets there, he's like this grizzled detective, and people know of him. And what happens is he meets a woman. He meets a clever, interesting woman who has a lot of money. And he helps her out. And in the process, from what I can understand, in the process of helping her out, they ended up together. But the sad thing is that when you cut to the present in the show, she passed away. So it sounds like they were together for 6 years, and it's been 2 years since she's died. And he has been living in the south of France for these 8 years. So the present day version of him is an older Sam Spade who's just become part of French life. So he's got a little sports car, and he lives on her winery, and he's taken over the winery, and he's like, he's no longer, he's shed the detective look. So he's in like polo shirts and no socks with the sneakers, and he goes to town, and he picks up bread, but everyone knows him, and they all know that he is that Sam Spade. So when the show starts, there's talk of the fact that little girl who's been growing up in the local, foster, the adoption, the what do you call it? The monastery, where they have a bunch of children without parents. Her father never came back, or, from the sounds of it, Spade sent him away for some reason. Like there was something that happened between them, and the father went away. So this girl's being raised by the church, and Sam Spade has basically been giving money to this little, like, nunnery to take care of the girl, and checks in on her now and then. And he has been doing it for the last 8 years. And, like, I just watched the first episode, but just the juxtaposition of Sam Spade when he first gets there to Sam Spade 8 years later living in the south of France is so funny. And they keep taking like the sort of like dramatic film noir moody music, but then they add this kind of French tilt to it. So I mean, if you like detective movies, this is such an interesting sort of twist on it. And Clive Owen, this is a perfect role for him. He speaks poor French. A lot of people speak poor English. My favorite part so far in the show is when he he finds out he has emphysema because he's been smoking his whole life. And the doctor says to him, he's like, "You got to quit smoking." And he says to the doctor, he's like, "Well, what if I don't?" And he's like, "Oh, well, if you don't," he's like, if you quit smoking, he's like, "you'll live for 30 years. Maybe." He's like, "If you don't quit smoking," he's like, "you're going to live for 30 years, but you're going to be in a bubble." And then from that point on, you can see Spade's character kind of struggling because it's such a smoking culture. He goes to the nunnery, and the head nun offers him a cigarette while they're talking shit with each other. It's like, it's so funny, this idea that, and it's not even like we don't want to show smoking because, that's smoking is bad. It's this idea that if you smoked your whole life and suddenly you found out that, you had emphysema, how the hell do you quit when everybody around you smokes? Everyone around you smokes and drinks. But the first episode was really, really good. I really enjoyed it for how different it was, and yet it was still it still had all the detective tropes there, even as it's telling like a twofold story. So in the past, they're telling the story of how he met his wife and what he did for her, right? And it has something to do with the father of this girl that he brought there. And then the present day, his wife is gone, and this father has returned, and there's kind of all this crazy shit going on. And at the end of the first episode, the little girl who's she's 15 now, who's at the nunnery, shows up at his house in the middle of the night. And she's like, there were gunshots. And he's like, why are you here? And she's like, because I figured I'd be safe here with you. And he's like, you stay here. I'm going to the nunnery. And when he gets there, someone has killed all the nuns. And that's how the first episode ends. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, they killed the fucking nunnery. It's like, I'm in. I was like, what's going on? So I find this to be so far a hugely enjoyable series. I hope that it doesn't lose steam as it goes on. But right now, it is a beautifully done detective series that tells a story at two levels, and everybody in it is good. Clive Owen is like made for this role, and his level of not give a shittery, because when you see him in the present, he's been living in this winery for 8 years. Like, he's really given up giving a fuck about the world. Like, he cares about the little girl in the monastery, but like, he just has no fucks for the rest of the world. You know, like, he's very good friends with a woman at a local bar, and you find out that he owns part of it. Her husband is super jealous of him because he thinks they're having an affair. But really what it is that the husband is an alcoholic and beats his wife. And she talks to Spade, because Spade is another person there who has actually lost his partner rather than lost his partner to alcoholism. So they commiserate, right? But this guy gets all angry with Spade and comes after him, and Spade just doesn't give a shit. And part is because he's dealt with tougher people in his life. And part is because he's kind of sitting there going, dude, at least your wife is alive. He's like, what's wrong with you? So the name is silly for the series, but it is a very good series. It is on, what is it, on Netflix? Yes, it's on Netflix, I think. Is that where we watched it? Monsieur Spade? Yeah, there you go. It's on Netflix. I hope that this isn't like a cliffhanger thing where like you only get to part of the story. I hope that this case gets solved within the first season. And then if it does, I'd be willing to go back and watch more, because Clive Owen as Sam Spade is perfect. So, and I know you like detective series. I know you like detectives, like especially like film noir detective type stuff.
I do, but I'll be curious what you think how it resolves, because the reviews aren't promising.
Really? What do they say?
Started well but faltered after. Starts out strong but fizzles out at the end. Starts strong but rushed ending disappoints.
Yeah, and that's what I'm worried about. It's so good up front that you're like, you know, how can it?
There are also very good ones. So don't forget, you can't go by. I mean, most of these are better, like 7s and 8s. So, although this one potentially is ruined by a hilariously bad ending. So I will.
Yeah, I wonder what they did then, if they Hollywooded the ending.
Yeah, but it does say it's got an ending. What they're saying is it happened too fast, but it's got an ending. So that's better.
Oh, wow. Clive Owen had to learn to speak French phonetically for the role.
Oh, no.
And that makes perfect sense for his character, because everyone gives him shit for his French. You know, it's a shame, because like I said, I mean, to some degree, he's almost playing a version of the detective character he played in Sin City.
Uh-huh.
But it's such a perfect role for him. So the first episode is very good. I hope that the ending is better than the reviews have said. But so far, I mean, just as a concept, I do enjoy it quite a bit.
Most of the reviews are good, not bad. So
I wonder if I hope that the series is fun enough to watch that even a weak ending is excusable, because the rest of the series is so good. You're like, and it has an ending. So the fact that it has an ending,
Yep.
Hopefully,
Still puts it ahead of a lot of others.
What's that? Yeah, I know, right?
Puts it ahead of a lot of other series.
Well, the
so
Diplomat
whatever,
doesn't have an ending. I mean, it's a great series, but it ends on a cliffhanger. If there was no season 2, I'd be pretty fucking pissed. Mm-hmm. Even though it was a really good series, so at least they resolve it. But I mean, yeah, he is so good, and the way they use him in this stuff. I mean, like he has this, this cleaning lady, or I don't even know. She's like the. What would she be? She's like the butler of the house, I guess. She cooks, she cleans, and she's left over from his wife, and like she just talks so much shit to him. she's like an old grizzled secretary that kind of hates you but kind of loves you too. And that's so classic of the idea of the detective story, where it's like, the detective has the secretary, and the secretary is it's either like, the young dame that kind of loves them but not, or it's the old grizzled woman that cares but doesn't show it because she's too busy, giving you shit, right? That's great in that respect. I enjoyed it. It's weird because, it's an American detective in France. And there's a lot of shit about World War II in there where, like, I guess he didn't fight. And there's a lot of people that give him shit. And he has this great line in there where he's like, well, you know what? He goes, I didn't want to run off to fight somebody else's war. So it's kind of an interesting thing with the character. And then the Algerian war is going on right now during the present period of the series. So, yeah, it's, and the chief of police from this little village that he lives in, like, both hates him but loves talking to him because he's the only other person in town who is kind of like clever, like the chief of police. So like they don't like each other, but they keep meeting for lunch. So it's almost like he's two dogs that can't stand each other, but know that they're more alike than anybody else. So I hope it doesn't run out of steam. I mean, there is that possibility now that the reviews are there, but I hope it doesn't, because it's been really enjoyable to watch. So, and I always loved Clive Owen. I always want Clive Owen to do successful stuff. And that's all. That's all I got for you.
Oh, nothing about Skeleton Crew. I'm shocked.
Oh shit! You know what? We did talk about that. Yeah, we talked about that briefly when we.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I will. Then I'll briefly mention Skeleton Crew. Because I watched the first episode.
Oh, you didn't watch the second one?
No, I haven't. I didn't get a chance.
I did. I've watched both.
Oh, did you really? Oh shit!
I watched it because when you said it was a pirate show, I got curious. I'm like,
well, did you get that feel as well?
Oh, are you kidding? See, okay, it's even more in the second episode.
Okay, so it feels like Treasure Island, doesn't it?
Well, okay, it's all of it because. Okay, so at the end of the first episode, what is the end of the first episode? What happens?
Nothing. They get on the ship, and then the ship goes into space, and then it goes into light speed, and that's it.
But the robot didn't wake up in the first episode.
No, the robot doesn't wake up. Yeah, Shmi, is that his name?
Yeah, it's SM-33. It's Smee.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got a peg leg, and he's like moving with a peg leg, and he's missing an eye. So he doesn't have an eye patch.
Oh yeah, no, there's. So I watched the show, and I told Joe that it was really enjoyable, and then Joe watched the 2 episodes. I didn't get a chance to watch the second one because we have other stuff that we're watching. But I really enjoyed the first episode. I thought it was interesting that they showed you a very suburbia aspect of the Star Wars universe, which you never see.
Yeah.
You found that was generic?
So, so there's one problem with it.
Okay.
Based on the first 2, does it say how many episodes this thing is?
I don't know.
I want to see if it lists it on anything. Does it tell you how many episodes? Let's see. Because, man. All right, it's 8 episodes.
Okay.
My guess is, in the end, it should have been 4. Because the first and second episode takes so long to tell you.
Yeah, so it goes on a bit. And
Jude Law doesn't even show up until the last 30 seconds of episode 2. And I guess he's a Jedi.
Interesting. I read that he was force sensitive. I didn't read that he was a Jedi.
Well, okay. I mean, yes, he levitates a key and brings it across the room to himself. By the way, there are scenes that look like they are direct references to the Pirates of the Caribbean ride from Disney, which includes the scene where they're in the jail cell.
Oh, are they really?
Because instead of a dog that they're trying to get to do the key, they're using this little rat thing. But I'm like, this is the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. I recognize the scene. I don't mind it. I just see it.
I mean, honestly, I felt like there was a weird Goonies vibe to it as well.
Oh yeah, well it is. So it is aimed at younger audiences, not very young, but younger.
Yeah, and that's important to recognize because my wife was like, I hate this dialogue. My wife was like so dismissive of it.
Oh, see, I didn't mind it once I knew what it was for.
My kids fucking loved it.
Yeah,
that was
when I understood
right
it
up their alley.
I understood it was aimed younger. The language
Yeah.
doesn't matter to me anymore. I get what it's doing. That's fine. You know, they've got their cutesy character, which is the best friend. Of course, they have to have the character they're going to sell plushies of. So that's right there.
And honestly, I thought that the was it the dog looking pirate?
Oh, the wolf. No, the
The
wolf.
wolf guy. Yeah, he looks
He's a werewolf.
fantastic.
Oh yeah, he shows back up. Like they all show back up. So the planet that they're on, because I don't think they bring this up in the first episode, that planet is essentially the treasure planet. So that's the secret mythological. It's El Dorado. Their planet is El Dorado, because when it warps out, the robot wakes up, and the very in charge girl, and I like her friend with the visor, the cyberpunk girl. I like her.
Yeah.
Because that's totally cyberpunk girl. So I'm like,
Oh,
okay, yeah, I like the friend. She's the techno. Like all the roles are very clearly laid out. Like there's the Luke Skywalker is the young kid, and his best friend is the Foggy Nelson of the group. And then there's the girl who's essentially Han Solo, or whatever, or Leia Organa, whatever. And then the best friend,
Or both
who's
combined,
like
yeah.
Sure, whatever. And so so the robot shows up and is like, all right, I'm going to throw you out of the airlock because you're not allowed in this ship. And he says, wait a minute, where's the captain? She's like, I killed your captain. He's like, oh, okay, then you're the captain. So she takes over the ship. So now the robot's working for them. And so they they say, oh, take us back home. And he's like, well, where's home? And because the first episode is all set up. It's all set up of this kid, and he's on a planet. I mean, it's Luke Skywalker. He doesn't.
And they had a weird light grid around the planet.
Yes, and that was kind of I immediately thought, why is there a force field around the planet? Like, what is this? And the robots say some weird things at times, and they act odd. So it's there must be an awareness by the planetary government that this is what this is, because the robots have these weird reactions to what the father's saying at times, where I'm like, okay, that's not normal. Like, these robots are clearly working for some secondary motive. So there was a lot of foreshadowing of it. But anyway, the first episode just shows up that there's a kid, and he's dissatisfied with the fact that, he's essentially going to take the goat from Fallout, where it tells you what career you're going to have. And his buddy, so they're all supposed to be studying, and he's got visions of a Jedi, being a Jedi. He loves the Jedi.
Yeah, he doesn't want to work on the moisture farm.
He's Luke Skywalker. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is Luke Skywalker. And so he finds this thing, and he's convinced it's a Jedi temple. And so he and these other girls, this other girl is also a troublemaker. She's the daughter of this bigwig within the whatever. And, and so she overhears what he's saying. She and her friend find the place. They come back to it, and they find out that it's in fact not a Jedi temple. It's a spaceship, which I immediately figured out. Oh, it's a spaceship, but it's upside down. Like, I got that right away, which I think is funny. I'm sure kids wouldn't pick that up, but immediately I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, it's upside down. This is a ship. So they manage to power the ship up. He basically starts playing with things. He's short round from Temple of Doom.
Yeah, he
touches
hit the autopilot button
and
or
says,
something like that.
I touched nothing. That's what he's basically doing, the I touch nothing bit from short round. That's what he's doing. Ship activates, goes on autopilot, and warps back to what ends up being a pirate port. But it doesn't go straight to it. It stops. And then when the robot says, well, where do you want to go? And she says the planet name, the robot doesn't seem to know what it is, or what I think is what we're supposed to figure out. They don't say it explicitly, is everybody, when they mention the planet name, they laugh at them and say, oh yeah, right, sure, that planet doesn't exist. That's the magical treasure planet of the universe. Sure it is. And so I think the robot keeps rejecting it because the planet doesn't really exist, or at least it doesn't know that it exists. So she says, well, take us to the nearest whatever. And he says, oh, I'll take you to the spaceport. And it is basically Mos Eisley as a spaceport. It's full of very dangerous people. And there's these kids wandering around, and there's a local prostitute. They, of course, don't say it's a prostitute, but an adult will know exactly what she is, who comes over, and she's like, where are your parents? You can't be here by yourself. Like, she actually is genuinely concerned about them because she realizes that these kids are going to get killed. And so the Luke Skywalker 2.0 has a bunch of these credits, and these credits are basically the gold doubloons of the galaxy. So when he pays for something, the person who takes the thing looks at it and says, whoa, where did you get one of these? And everybody starts to figure out that they must have a bunch of money. And so the whole place starts to descend on them. And right as these kids are about to get killed, then Smee comes out and starts wiping everybody out. Like, he becomes a super robot. And he's just like bashing everybody and whatever. And then he gets killed, or at least paralyzed. He's probably going to come back. But he gets knocked out by pirate wolf guy shows up with his band of merry bastards. And he's like, who the fuck are you? And he's like, and why are you on, how did you get, I think he says, how did you get my ship? Or how did you figure out where I was? So there's something clues him in that these kids know something. And so they get thrown into the brig it's prison. They call it the brig. And at the very end, they're in there and you hear somebody moving. And he says, I'll help you get out of here if you bring me to this planet with you. And of course, it's Jude Law. We don't even see his face, but you know it's Jude Law. And so when they're like, well, how are we going to get out of here? They're like, the key's over there. He's like, the distance between here and the key is all in your mind. And he kind of puts his hand up and the key floats over. And Luke Skywalker says, a Jedi. And then it cuts. So I'm not saying he is a Jedi, but
no, he's not a Jedi. He's basically a Force sensitive.
Yeah, but he uses it really easily. So he's clearly not just sensitive. He seems to know how to use it.
Who was it in? Rogue One. What was his name?
Forrest Whitaker.
No, Danny. Is it Donnie?
Don. Oh God.
Donnie Yen. Is it Donnie Yen?
Donnie Yen. That's it. Yeah, Donnie Yen.
Yeah.
Right,
I mean, like
Yen,
he could see with the Force.
Yeah, so he's like that.
Yeah.
He's one of those. So, but I mean, it took 2 episodes to get to that point. I'm like, this is taking a long time.
I know.
So that's my only real issue.
But that's kind of the problem lately with television in general.
It is.
Is that they're taking movies and they're turning them into series, and they don't need to be that long.
I will say the music is fantastic. Because they are trying to do pirate music with Star Wars, and it works really well. Especially, I feel like in the second episode, because they're doing like sea shanties, but with the kind of John Williams orchestration thing happening. And it's
orchestral sea shanties in space.
Yeah, it works better than it should.
You know what?
And the werewolf pirate and his gang are fantastic. Like, those guys.
I enjoyed the first episode. I thought it was well done.
The second episode is a lot better. It's
I understand that it's a kid series, and I'm fine with that. And you know what? It doesn't need.
You know what?
This is the thing you and I are talking about. It doesn't need to be tied into the grander Skywalker story.
Honestly, it doesn't feel that kiddie, except at certain points you're reminded. But it doesn't feel. At least the second episode. I would have no problem believing it was from a adult movie because there's a lot of menace. You know, you legitimately believe these kids are going to be killed, which is not really what normally. I mean, you don't see any blood or anything, but there's clearly people dying. At least it seems that way. I couldn't tell for sure, but it's not like you just see somebody get knocked out and then they shake their head and sit up. Like, it looks like people are going to get killed or are being killed. So it doesn't seem as young as it is because I think it works well. So I was actually more impressed with it. I really just watched it because I'm like, well, Randall and I had almost never watched the same thing. So I'll just watch this thing just so I have something to talk about with him. But then I went and I watched the second episode because I was like, okay, how would Star Wars pirates work? Like, I haven't seen that before. I've seen a lot of Star Wars riffs. Yeah. Like, Mandalorian is the Western. This is now pirates.
And the thing is, the mistake they made with the Western was they just started to tie it too much into Star Wars.
Well, that's the issue.
The key is to tell a Star Wars story in the Star Wars universe without it having to tie back to the original core story. Just tell a different story.
That's the problem with them. The kid bringing up the Jedi again and again. I'm sitting here going, is it just going to be that he's a Jedi? Because people have already said that they're pretty sure that Stellan Skarsgård in Andor is a Jedi. Because they just can't let it go. That he's going to end up being a Jedi. There's all these illusions.
But here's the thing. I don't have a problem. No. I don't have a problem with there being Jedis. because there are a lot
of I kind of want nothing of the old stuff. Because
my logic is the Jedis were everywhere. The Jedis were law bringers. They were all over the universe, right?
Yeah, but the minute that these people step into that, they lose the ability to restrain themselves. That's why I don't want any of it. They can't do it correctly.
I know, but what I like is the idea that you're living in a period of history where there are very few, and the few that have been there are people that cut themselves off from the Force enough that they couldn't be found by Vader and his people, right?
Yeah,
so like Skarsgård in Andor, I haven't seen enough of Andor, right, to really get a sense of it.
I haven't watched any of it. I just saw that where they're like, oh, clearly he's a Jedi. Look at this, this, and this, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but in this case with this show, it's like from what I've read about Jude Law, he has Force abilities, right? But they've said he's not a Jedi. And it's the idea that there are people out there who are Force sensitive. So the idea is if you're Force sensitive, you can convince a bunch of kids that you're a fucking Jedi, even when you're just some bastard who's Force sensitive. And I like that idea, that Force sensitivity exists outside of Jedis. They don't have exclusivity over it. That's what I liked about Rogue One, was that Donnie Yen was kicking the shit out of people. And he was using the Force to do it in a different way. And saying, I am one with the Force. I'm not a fucking Jedi, but I'm one with it. Right? I love that idea. So I don't have a... Go on.
If they can demonstrate that amount of restraint, I'm fine with it. I don't believe they can. Every one of these series, except for Andor, and even Andor may slip into this in season 2. Like
I watched the first... I will admit, though, I watched the first episode of Andor, and I was just kind of... It felt so bleak.
Well, that's why I don't want the bummer version of Star Wars. I'm fine. Like, I don't need lightsabers, but the thing I like about Skeleton Crew is it feels adventurous, and that's what I like
it does.
It.
Yeah,
like when the guy had a tri-corner helmet on, and I was like, wow, they're not even trying to cover this up. I was on board once I saw that ridiculous helmet because it is so silly.
No. When the wolf pirate showed up, I was like, okay, I'm going to give this an episode at least. I was like, that looks cool.
Well, no, I'm saying even before that. When I saw that helmet, I was all in because there's two ways you can go about something like this. You can either try to be clever about it, and that's tricky to have the kind of basic trappings without making it obvious and overt, or you can just dive in. Both approaches have to be done correctly. I like this one just diving in and saying, fuck it, it's pirates in space. This is literally just pirates in space. And so far, outside of the, and if it is the kid, just because he's looking at Jedi stuff, and if it is the fact that they're going to misdirect by having you think he's a Jedi, but it's the kid mapping that onto him and learning that not all Jedis, that's the only way you can have the Force. That's fine. If you're going by,
but the thing is, if you're going with, because I feel like there's a lot of Treasure Island in here. If you're going by pirate tropes, right? Long John Silver was a charismatic pirate character.
Yes.
Who took a little boy in, at one point or other, fucked him over, but then helped him in the end. And that's the classic sort of Treasure Island story. So if they're using pirate tropes flat out, then it makes a lot of sense that Jude Law would be a charismatic, roguish pirate captain.
Oh yeah, and I think where they're going to end up with him, if I had to guess, because this is aimed at young kids. So I mean, they're not going to go that far out of bounds with it. He's not going to suddenly get to the planet and then rape the kid's father. Like that's not going to happen in a series like this. So there's a brackets around how much this thing is going to push the envelope. So my guess is it's going to be that he used to be a ruthless, he
was the captain.
And now he's kind of been humiliated and realized that, that type of life will inevitably lead to you getting stabbed in the back by your second in command, which is the Wolfman. And so the Wolfman he'll realize, well, if I'd kept going, I would have become what the Wolfman is, and I don't want to be that. So, and at first he's going to be like, well, you're from the planet of gold, and he'll chase the old dream of it, and then he'll realize, do I really want to be that person? In the end, he'll do the Han Solo thing where he's like, no, there is a heart beating beneath the smuggler's chest here, and and I'm fine with that. I'm okay.
I think they're going with the Long John Silver approach, where he's going to teach the kids how to basically be great spacefarers, and then he's gonna fuck them over when the money looks good, and then in the end, he's not gonna be willing to let them die, and he's gonna save them.
Yes, that's exactly it. No, I
but he's still gonna fuck off at the end and go be a pirate because
there's gonna be this thing where he's gonna say you can't, you have to be willing to do this to be able to survive, blah 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 blah, and then when they finally get back, yes, it'll seem like he's all about the gold, and then. Right, the Wolfman will trap them and say, "All right,
you're all gonna die.
Kill the kids, and we'll take the gold and go. You finally gave us the treasure that you promised us initially, or it'll be some kind of long con, and then he'll of course realize that no, I don't want to kill children because it's a young adult story or whatever. I'm okay with that because I honestly, I really hope that we get some kind of space like a Harlock type of spaceship." With the sails and everything, like I want all that. I'm okay.
Well, you saw in the beginning the what do you call it, the space anchors. Yes. They fire the harpoons into the other ship, and they all run through the tubes to take over. Which makes no sense that those ships would not depressurize instantly, immediately.
But whatever. Yeah, I mean, because that's my first thought, and then I'm like, oh no, that's okay. This is literally. I want to see two ships firing space cannonballs. Like I want it. Okay, fine, go full bore.
You want a pirate ship fight in space.
Yeah, I want to see like they're surfing on the waves of hyperspace, and that's the rough seas. Like something happens where they're on the, I'm all for that, man. I'm okay with that because it's clear that this is not going to be a serious, weighty series. And so it's an
adventure series.
No, then have fun, go crazy. Like when Smee was literally on a peg leg, I was laughing, and I'm like, this is great. This is like John Waters' Star Wars at this point. This is so on the nose and obvious and weird that I'm fine with it. And the only thing that's missing is I wish there was some. So far they've been a little too restrained on the outfits. Like I want them to do big pirate outfits, like the big boots with the cuffs. Like go all the way. There's little things like there's little elements.
They've got 6 more episodes to get there.
Yeah, I want to see a ship with a giant skull and crossbones as the bridge, like on the outside. I'm serious, like Harlock. Go space pirate Harlock. Just do it. Why not? If they do that, it's going to be delightful. And maybe they're building up to that. If it really gets to that point,
this isn't based off anything, right? This isn't based off a comic or this is an original thing, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, it is. Let's see. It didn't say based on anything, so.
All right.
No, created by John Watson, Christopher for the streaming service.
There you go.
Same time frame as Mandalorian and interconnected. See, that's the only thing that I'm like.
You worry that it'll connect?
Yeah, and Nick Frost is in it too, so I'm waiting to see when he shows up because I don't know who he is.
I hope he's a pirate.
He's just the voice of Smee. No, he's just a voice.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean that's fine, but yeah.
Well, you know what? As with all Star Wars properties, we're just gonna have to see how it ends up.
Yeah, I mean the guys who made it. One of them did a lot of writing. He did Spider-Man. He directed Spider-Man: Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home.
Oh,
wow,
okay.
He co-wrote that clown horror movie. Ooh, that's not supposed to be that good. And the other guy also. Oh, so this is his collaborator. Yeah, so these two work together. These are a pair. Yeah, okay. I mean, based on the first 2 episodes, I'm interested to keep watching it. I just don't know. Okay, so your kids liked it. All right. Well, then if they liked it, then
yeah, the kids liked it. Listen, the kids liked it. I was going to watch it anyway with them, whether they liked it or not.
Yeah, I'll keep watching it because I want to see them lean more into the pirate stuff. If they do that, I think it might be a lot of fun. I mean, it's going to be very.
Listen, it's going to be more fun than a lot of the shit they've done because it's an adventure. Lean into the adventure. It doesn't have to be so miserable.
I'm not kidding. When he said SM33, that was like the 50% mark of me going, oh, okay. We're not even trying to be subtle. This is good. I'm okay with this.
Let's just have fun with it.
Yes. And then when he was going on the peg leg, where he was missing a leg and it was just a post, I went, oh yeah, okay. Okay.
So when
Yeah,
when he
good.
fights, is it like it was IG-34? What was the one?
No, he's all melee. He is huge melee. Like he's got these buzzsaw shields on his arms. Like he's punching people across the screen, and they're shooting him, and he's guarding it with the things on his arms. He's just like he's like Big O. Like he's just fucking power slamming people all over the place. So it's great. He's just tearing through everything, and until they hit him with what is essentially what seems like a restraining bolt, maybe. That nobody can touch him. He's just wiping everyone out. It's great because I knew that's what was going to happen because they're sitting there and I'm like, okay, cue the robot. And sure enough, you hear dunk, 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 and the fucking robot comes flying out and just starts because they're threatening the captain. Yep. So as soon as they do that, he goes into super pursuit mode and starts wiping the floor with everybody, and that's great.
Super pursuit mode.
I know that was the best part of the show so far is when he's just. Again, what looks like killing some of them. I don't think they actually show anybody dying. I'm sure they don't. But when he is just decimating every single person that's coming at him, whether it's melee, blasters, everything, and the only person who stops him is the wolf pirate. You know, when Wolfman shows up, he's the one who shocks him. And he's great. Like the wolf design is fantastic.
I mean, the effect on him is excellent.
No, he's really. If he's the main antagonist, which it appears he is, they created a really good villain because he is literally Blackbeard. Like he's got a black beard. Like he is an
a black
evil
wolf
pirate.
Beard, yeah.
Right, and he's got like the
his
red
whole
eyes,
body is
got
a
all this
beard.
shit. Yeah, it's really good. So I like it so far. And I hope that they keep going hardcore pirate because, yeah, I don't want to see a lightsaber. The force sensitive thing is fine. You know?
Oh, no, you know what?
Fine.
I am perfectly fine. You know what? If I see a lightsaber, I wanted to see it in the hands of somebody who has no force powers. Like somebody just finds one in like a treasure chest.
Well, what would be great is if he ignites it and then tries to swing it and just throws it away and then it breaks. And he's like, I don't know how to use that. You know?
I don't need any Jedis in this. I don't need them. And if anyone shows up, I want them to be a Jedi in like, hiding. You know what I mean?
I hope that they just do what you were talking about and make it the Donnie Yen thing. I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
but
I think that I think Star Wars should have more characters like that. If the Force is the thing in that galaxy so far, far away, then I think it's okay to have people who are Force sensitive without necessarily being, a Jedi.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's what I'm saying is I hope they have the restraint to not just make him a Jedi.
Yeah.
Just make it that he's... I wouldn't even use the word the Force necessarily. I mean, the kid will because the kid knows who the Jedi
are. The kid will bring all the Force imagery.
Yeah,
and with
but
that,
I would
he
like
will
Jude
bring
Law
other
to just...
kids with him.
Yeah, Jude Law should just say, well, the only reason I became captain is I was able to make people believe and follow me up to a point. Almost that he's doing kind of the Jedi mind trick without knowing it. And so his charisma as captain is basically because of the Force.
Oh, because
stuff like
he
that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, but not knowingly.
I mean, and honestly, Jude Law is a great actor to have in that position.
Oh yeah, I think he'll be great. And that, yeah, but so. I want to see him in the full space pirate outfit. I want.
No,
I want that.
Honestly, the stills I've seen, he looks very space gypsy.
That's fine.
In the beginning, they have him in that big metal helmet.
Oh, and that's what I want that back. I want that out because that outfit was sensational, and that's what I want more of. And they have you get glimpses of it when you're at the spaceport. Like it does feel like a Star Wars space kind of. It's Mos Eisley, but space pirates. So all that stuff is good. I want more of that. Like I really want it to be like a ship with like the prow and like a mermaid on the end. Except I don't know. It'll be like the girls with the squid tentacles from Jabba's thing. That'll be the mermaid on the front. Like I want to see because I don't know what whales. Ship. I don't know what the ship that Wolfman is driving right now is, but I really hope it looks like a pirate ship.
You really hope it looks like...
Yes.
It might as well.
I want it to look that way.
Even if it's just a vague reference, because it's not
it doesn't really have to have sails,
yeah.
but if it has the shape and it has like cannon ports on the sides and stuff, like, you can do that stuff, and I would be really happy with that. And if the ship could be called like the Broadsider or something like that,
you know what? If the rest of the series is just that, that's good. It doesn't need to be the beginning of a new, era of Star Wars shit. It could just be a really fun, like Goonies movie series.
Yeah, I mean, inevitably it's gonna have a cliffhanger because 8 episodes. I don't think they have the capacity to tell a single story. I'd love it if they did. If they wrap it up in 8 episodes, I'll be happy. But how long it's taking now?
I know, but I wonder if it's taking a lot up front to set it up, and then once things get rolling, it'll get rolling.
Yeah, my suspicion is the end of episode 8 is Jude Law in his full gear saying, getting his ship back and saying, "All right, let's bring you home. Yar har har." Don't yo ho, yo ho.
Oh, we will see. Hey, listen, I appreciate that you watched it.
I want the goddamn Jabba's Hutt band to be playing space shanties. Like, I want that scene.
Oh, yeah, and that. I feel like that's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, like Max Rebo and whatever are playing like the Yo-Ho song, except it's Star Wars, no singer, just that.
Oh God, does this mean they're going to have a Pirates of the Star Wars ride now?
I'd be okay with that if they do it right.
A Pirate of the Star Wars.
Why not? So.
Yeah. So I'm going to keep watching it. I enjoyed it. I'm going to keep watching it.
It's the most enthusiastically I've talked about a Star Wars property in quite a while. So that's obviously true. It's something because I'm actually jazzed to see more of it. I just hope they don't blow it. Yeah.
Well, that's always it, right? I hope they don't blow it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a case where I want them to go overboard in the non-Star Wars part, which is just spray pirate juice all over this thing like foam. Just hose it. Hose it down. So, but my review is an interesting one.
Okay.
Were you aware that, the movie Cyborg, the Van Damme movie?
Yeah.
Right? Fun movie.
Yes.
Do you know any of the background of what happened with that movie?
I know nothing of the background of that movie.
Okay. All right. I knew none of this until a week ago or so. I happen to see there's a couple of film people, like writers that I follow. And one of them posted this thing saying, "Hey, the Slinger cut of Cyborg is available to watch." And I went, and at first I just dismissed it. I didn't think anything of it. And then I remembered, I'm like, wait, this person is a hardcore film person. She wouldn't be posting this if it was just a director's cut thing. What is this? And so I looked into it. And so what happened was Cyborg was a Canon film. And they brought Albert Pune in, who did movies like Nemesis. Like, he did these types of movies, which are great, low-budget sci-fi movies.
Nemesis is a weird classic.
It is. And Cyborg is of a different flavor. Cyborg is more for that weird bad guy who just can't start going, at the end. But
I like Cyborg more than Nemesis.
Yeah.
But I like the ending of Nemesis more.
Well, let me tell you something. Let me tell you the background, because this is a fascinating thing. So what happened was the movie was filmed, and they did test screenings of it, and apparently of the 100 people that watched his original cut, 99 hated it of the 100.
Wow.
And based on that, Canon fired him, and we're going to shelve the film until Van Damme said, let me and I don't know who the other guy was. He said, let us take a run at cutting this film together. And they put a cut together that apparently Canon liked. It was fine. So instead of just losing all their money, they released it as Cyborg. So Albert Pune is the director, which he was, but it was edited by Van Damme and this other guy. In fact, I think they're, I think, are they credited as the directors? Or as editors? Let me look. I don't know if they were legally allowed to be credited as, because sometimes you can't.
It depends on the amount. Yeah, you manipulate the movie.
Yeah, and I think that's why the other guy. So let me take a look here. Editing bot. Yeah, editing officially by Scott Stevenson and Roseanne Zingle, but uncredited Sheldon Lettich and Jean-Claude Van Damme. So what they probably did was they probably credited Pune's original editors and then the other two so that they could avoid any type of SAG type of problems. So they edited what was released as Cyborg. So Pune at one point managed to find a VHS cut of his original work print. And what they did was he recut the high definition footage with the VHS footage into what's called Slinger, which is what the
So wait,
Van
did you
Damme
see
character
the
is called.
Slinger cut?
I did.
Oh,
Yes.
jeez.
That's what the person posted the link to.
Okay.
Now, the funny thing is, the footage itself is basically identical, except in many cases, Pune used different takes, but the events are the same. Right? So the things that
so
happen...
why did they hate it then?
Well, hold on. Because it's both the same and massively different. So Cyborg is in a future where there's been some disease that has wiped out a bunch of people, and now it's like post-apocalypse. And the cyborg, the woman, Pearl, she has data that the CDC needs to create a cure. And the bad guy, Fender, wants the cure so that he can essentially become king of the world. That's the story. And Van Damme is basically a mercenary, or, a whatever, a wandering, a Ronin. Right? That's Cyborg. Slinger is a religious story of good versus evil. Fender worships Satan.
Okay.
So, and this is the thing is, when you watch it, there are a shit ton of religious iconography and references, including Van Damme getting crucified, that make way more sense when you know that this was the original intention. And this one opens with a crawl, and I'll read it. And when, quote, and when all else had failed, they became animals, cold, ruthless, skilled in the killing arts. Some were consumed by evil. They embraced Satan and were known as pirates. A few strode the narrow path between heaven and hell. They were warriors for hire, and this world called them slingers. That's the opening crawl for Slinger. So right off the bat, it is established that, no, this is basically literally good versus evil. So instead, there is no disease. There is no plague, never mentioned. It's entirely excised. There is nothing of it. Instead, Pearl is delivering information to, still Atlanta, to reactivate technology. And what we'll find out is because the people in Atlanta aren't trying to cure anything, they're trying to become basically the Illuminati and reestablish order by becoming the super world government. That's the story of Slinger. So when you first encounter, I do have some of the clips because, man, these are just magnificent.
Interesting.
So again, the major events...
It's kind of weird. I almost like the virus storyline more.
Some people do, some people don't.
But I do like the idea that his version, though, it's almost more religious, good versus evil. The people who want to take over the world, that's kind of a gray area, isn't it? Because it's like...
Well, yeah, because instead of Fender wanting to rule the world with the cure, instead he wants the world to stay the way that it is because he believes that that's how Satan wants it. Chaos, murder, rape, mayhem. And so his whole goal is to keep things from ever getting better. And that's why he wants to stop Pearl. So this is our intro, which again is the same as Cyborg. By and large, it's all the same movie. Just things are in just different positions and some of the footage is different takes. But the same major things all happen. And this is him talking to, because if you remember in the beginning of Cyborg, Pearl and this guy, he's basically trying to buy time for her to get away. And that's when she runs into Van Damme. So this is when that guy gets caught by Fender. So listen to this, because this is also apparently, they redubbed the guy who played Fender's voice because they didn't like his original voice. But my understanding is this is his actual voice that it's still all overdubbed. And sometimes the lip sync is hilariously wrong because Pune never got to finish doing the work on it. So some of it just looks awful in terms of it looks like a Godzilla film sometimes. Who cares? Whatever. But listen to this Fender's kind of intro to the movie. This is like 3 minutes into the film we get this.
Your people have been hidden away too long, Strat. You know nothing of the outside world. What the world's become. We have no bullets. No technology, no God, but we have Satan, and we are his animals, and we are creating hell on Earth.
Yeah, completely different tone, no disease. Like this is.
He's got that whispery. You know what he reminds me of? Fucking remember Cobra, the bad guy in Cobra.
Yes. Brian Thompson. Yeah.
He's got that kind of
guy with the knife
vibe to him.
Yes. Right? So, but otherwise, it's the strangest part of this is that the film's actual imagery is by and large, the soundtrack is also completely different. They brought in like a glam rock soundtrack, which I think works fine. So it's a different soundtrack too, but all the imagery is the same. So you're watching a parallel universe version of the same movie, because a lot of times,
I mean, that's what it feels like. That idea, it's a parallel universe version of the movie.
Yes, it's really strange because the quality comes in and dips it, because literally you'll be watching like VHS footage and then it just resumes in HD because they just cut the first minute off where they were talking about something religious, and then they just go on. Like the part where we're going to hear in a minute, the part where the cyborg woman finds Van Damme in the Cyborg movie.
So why is she why is she a cyborg if the technology's been lost?
I got the audio of it. I'm not sure it makes any sense. You can tell me. I don't know. But then again, I don't know if she has. Apparently, she has some missing piece of technology to get the They're so hung up on electricity. Somehow she knows how to make electricity work again. That's literally what they say.
Got it.
So
okay.
They don't explain it, but then again, in a movie like this, does it matter? So in Cyborg, when she meets Van Damme, the intro bit is very short. She basically looks at him. She says, "Why did you help me?" He says, I thought you were somebody else," which is the flashback with the family that he lived with.
Yeah.
And then she says, she scans him really quick. She says, "Okay, I can trust you. Here's what it is. I need to get to Atlanta to give them the cure." It's a short scene. It's much longer. Well, not much longer. It's longer in this, and there's internal dialogue, which it's a little hard to hear, but you'll probably pick it up, where you realize that Pearl's, the people she's going to, are not necessarily that much better than Fender, depending on how you want to look at it. But here's the scene. It's the same scene, but just longer and with additional dialogue.
"You're a slinger, aren't you? Why did you help me?"
I felt like somebody else.
This slinger is noble, honorable, simple. The perfect tool for your purpose. You must get in to help you grow, help you escape Fender. And by the time this slinger learns of your real intentions, it will be too late.
I can trust you. To get me back to Atlanta. There's a group of scientists there. Last month. They're working to bring order back, to get the electricity running and technology going again. To do that, they need information I have.
Right. So it's
much more nefarious.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And man, the ending is a hell of an ending because it's completely different than Cyborg, but we'll get to that. So yeah, so that's a lot longer because in the Cyborg, she basically scans him. Number one, her voice is not roboticized in Cyborg. It is in this. You heard how they're doing
so that they changed that because she didn't sound like a robot in the other one.
No, she sounds like a robot the whole time. Like it's very, and Fender keeps calling her an android bitch and stuff. Almost the point where I clipped it because he says it so many times. He's like, "Where's that droid bitch?" Like over and over and over. It's almost to comic effect. So yeah, they're like, "Oh well, he won't realize what you're doing till it's too late." So yeah, just use it.
Wait, so is she talking to Atlanta?
Well, I don't know who. I think she's radioing back to her command unit or whoever, the person that you'll hear later. So it's never made clear, but the voice sounds like the guy you'll hear in the next clip. So I think so, but I'm not really sure. There's a lot in the movie that's sloppily explained. There's no way around
listen,
that.
it's still like an action B movie, so they can only go so far.
That's what I'm saying is all the imagery is the same or extended. So there's actually longer action sequences. In some cases, maybe they're going on a little too long, but whatever. But it's all the same story. But like the flashbacks in Cyborg are chopped into the action sequences, and instead here the flashbacks happen much earlier, and the action sequences are less weirdly edited. Because in Cyborg, there's some really janky editing. That's gone because the flashbacks had already happened. But because they re-edited it, I guess Van Damme felt it was more impactful to have him remembering the other family he helped when he had long hair. That's how you know it's the past. He has long hair. And so again, it's just interesting because it's two different versions of the same footage, just with some alternate takes and things repositioned. But all the same things happen relatively the same till the very, very end. So he meets the girl, you know, and the girl starts journeying with him. Although in this version, she was meeting somebody that she knew in New York, so that's why she's there. Whereas in the original, her presence is unexplained. I don't know if that's really important or not, but they explain it. We see the family and the girl with the barbed wire, remember? And he says, hold it or they're going to die. Of course, they die. And so then we get a flashback where Pearl is on the run because now she's been separated from Van Damme again. And this is the flashback, which is, again, different footage in this case because the dialogue is completely different about why they're going to make her into a cyborg and what they explain about. Again, it's kind of vague, but the reason that she needs to be a cyborg. So this is her and the guy who I think is who was telling her, oh, he's the perfect tool. It sounds like, but I mean, it's the footage. These pieces of footage are the VHS, so the audio is not the best. So I can't tell you for sure it's the same guy. Plus, I didn't get any clips of this, but they have somebody else, and I didn't realize it for a while, that dubs for Van Damme, and he doesn't sound anything like him. He sounds like a nerd. Oh, okay. Yeah, because those scenes were supposed to be filmed, or the dubbing was supposed to be done by Van Damme, but he was fired, so they didn't finish post-production. So there's all this weird stuff that you kind of have to put together on the fly. It's not a big deal. You figure it out. But, oh, yeah, there are sequences where I was like, who is this? And then at a certain point when certain phrases, I'm like, oh, this is supposed to be Van Damme, except it's a guy going, and then I got to Atlanta, and I figured out that I was going to have to help the cyborg. And it's like, whoa, that's not Van Damme, man. You know, this is like somebody punched Joe Pesci in the balls. It's not that bad, but it's that equivalent of, oh, this is supposed to be Van Damme, but they obviously didn't have him because Pune had been fired. And what I think Cannon probably said was, okay, you can edit it, but you cannot reshoot or add anything. This movie needs to get done. I have a feeling that's what they did.
You can't add any more to the bill.
This cannot have one more dollar spent. And so I think that's part of why. But here's Pearl and the guy talking about what her mission is going to be and her being turned into a cyborg.
You were chosen because of your matrix engineering background and because of the makeup of your psychology. You are the perfect choice for this mission. However, I think it's important that you understand the ramifications of the decision you're making.
I wouldn't have volunteered if I didn't understand the consequences.
After the operation, you will never be the same again, Pearl.
The lack of technology, of a civilized system, has destroyed so much. We've lost our humanity. We've lost our purpose. There's no meaning in this world. I want to change that.
And we will, Pearl. The world shall be remade in our vision, with our beliefs. Information in dead computer systems around the country is vital in helping us gain power. We need a portable computer that can travel to and tap into these systems. You will be that computer, Pearl.
Oh, yeah, so there. That's what they explained. She's a mobile computer. She's a laptop. She's a laptop with legs. So there, that was the explanation. I guess I was just so stunned because that's all VHS footage. So that's completely missing from Cyborg. You never see that scene in any part.
That is a decent explanation of what she is. Yeah.
Yeah. So before I go any further.
200 hours later.
Right. So then the rest of the movie, again, it largely, like, there's not big differences in how the story actually unfolds in the chronology, but there is one more great speech by Fender about his Satanism when they're in the big warehouse and they get caught. So when the girl basically gets injured and Van Damme gets shot, Fender, and I mean, there's long shots of Fender just staring and saying, like, come on, motherfucker. Like, some of it is hilarious because it's so badly over the top, but it was in Cyborg too. Like, that guy is not subtle. So it's fine. It doesn't matter. It's not like this is really any worse. But this is him talking about Satan, and it's just like it's so weird how much this is good versus evil compared to what Cyborg was. But this is his speech
especially since the people he's working for are not necessarily good either.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is it's such a different movie because it's ostensibly about good versus evil, and yet really only Van Damme seems to be the good person. Everybody else is just. I mean, the scientists are saying they want to restore order, but they're doing it in a sinister way. But I think the idea was supposed to be that they were the last resort, but it's presented oddly for sure. So, yeah, it's a strange film. Not that Cyborg was flawless, but this is a interesting movie, and you have to sit here and go, well, it never really got finished, so we don't know if this is like clunky stuff that they were going to fix later or what. But this is when Fender has, they think they've got Van Damme basically ready to kill him before he escapes. And this is Fender kind of just waxing on about Satanism and how much he loves it.
You are a fucking fool, Slinger. Look around you. There is no joy, no hope, only cold, empty despair. It is Satan's world now.
And there's way more of that.
Dude,
that's just one bit.
He sounds like the Dixie Flatline almost.
Yeah, it's...
Like they gave him like a weird, deep modulation on his voice.
Yeah, and even though he's like almost yelling or being very, very intense, it's at a monotone. It's weird. I like it better in this than Cyborg.
No, I know what he sounds like. Gee, he sounds like Wintermute from the fucking the Neuromancer recording.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's
not
what I'm
the
saying.
Dixie Flatline, but he sounds like a digital voice almost.
Right, and I like this voice better than the one in Cyborg. I like this version of this character because in Cyborg, he's always just taking off his glasses. He's got those blue contacts and he's staring and he's like, like he's got that kind of Willem Dafoe maniac look all the time. But this sounds more like what that look should be. So I like. There's parts of this I like better than Cyborg, and there's parts that I like better in Cyborg. Like it's such a weird two sets of movies that are the same movie, but also very different. That's the thing. You have this weird mental state where so much of this I remember the scenes, but now it's in a completely different context. It's a bizarre thing to watch. So the rest of the movie unfolds basically the way Cyborg does, where they end up in Atlanta. It's the big fight in the rain. They crucify him, which again makes more sense now because Fender says something like, Satan laughs at how you're crucified. I don't remember, something about Satan again. Like there's a lot of Satan stuff. And, he crucifies him. He escapes. They end up in Atlanta. They have the big fight in the rain. It's all largely the same thing until the very end. So at the very end, he basically delivers Pearl to the scientists. And you see, the scientist says a version of what you heard in the earlier clip is like, okay, now we can enact, our plan, right? And then the screen cuts to black and it says 9 months later. And then we see a hallway, and basically, in the Terminator, when they appear out of like the bubble of electricity, a naked woman materializes out of a bubble of electricity with a cybernetic eye and like a cybernetic, hole in her stomach, and walks towards the camera. And then the credits roll, and it says, what the hell does it say? It says, it says at the end, to be continued in Cyborg Nemesis, The Dark Rift. A movie that was intended to be made, but then Pune developed dementia and died, so he never got to make it. So this sets up a sequel that's going to merge this movie and Nemesis somehow. But we never got it. But it's still in there because there's this post-credit scene with the woman materializing.
Oh, wow. So it's supposed to tie to Nemesis.
Yes! There was supposed to be another movie that would be... It's fucking nuts. So I would recommend anybody who
Nemesis
likes Cyborg
is what
watch
the world looks like after these people get power.
That's what it seems like, yeah.
Interesting.
Right? Like I kind of bummed out we never got to see whatever the next thing was supposed to be. Because this was so basically he himself put this out because he found the VHS and he spliced this all together. So this is what he intended. This is the director's idea.
And he'd already done Nemesis at this point.
Right. Yeah, because he found this years and years later.
Yeah, Interesting. So they took it away from him, and then he was like, "Fuck it, I'll make Nemesis anyway," because then Nemesis was its own movie. But this connects them together. Interesting.
It seems like either this would lead to. I mean, it's hard to know because I don't think they ever. He never got to actually make it, so I don't even know if there were notes on what his idea was. Like this was something that I think he thought, oh, all right, I can make my version of this and then make another film. I think he intended to make another film, and then he was diagnosed with dementia, and then he died. So, because this cut is relatively recent. I think it was 2009 or something that this came out, that he had found it and done it. It's relatively recently done. And I think it's still only available on German and like French Blu-rays. So I think that's why this person released it, that you could watch it here, even though it's all in English. But I don't even think you could buy this version in the United States right now. So, but I knew nothing of any of this. I just thought Cyborg was Cyborg. I just thought, oh, because Albert Pune makes these movies. So I just thought, okay, yeah, it's one of these movies. But rewatching it, once I saw the religious stuff, there's all this stuff in the movie. Like there's little things in the background of crosses with skulls on them and shit like that. And I'm like, okay, that's not just set decoration. That's intentional. Like there's something, they were thinking about this. And there is a lot of very specific religious imagery and the use of crosses and different framing of shots where I'm like, okay, yeah, this was not just accidental. He was making this good versus evil cyberpunk story, I guess. So it's weird, man. I don't know that I've seen anything quite like this, where the movie is, in terms of its shots, the same, but has such a different feeling
and yet
to
transformed, yeah.
Massively, because one is basically a hard science fiction story, more or less, and the other is basically a religious parable set in a cyberpunk dystopia.
I'm amazed that you didn't grab any clips of the new Van Damme.
I should have, but they're very minor, and it, you know, yeah, I should have, because it is kind of funny.
Just to hear the new voice.
Honestly, I may have exaggerated, but it's, you know, it's not Van Damme, because I didn't even know what I was hearing for a while. But it just sounds like a very normal, because Van Damme has an accent. You know, when he talks with an accent, and this person is just a generic American. Like he sounds like oh God, who's the 40-year-old virgin guy?
Oh, jeez, Steve Carell.
Carell. Yeah, he sounds like Steve Carell. He sounds like Steve Carell doing a serious reading of the lines. That's what he sounds like. Just a guy going, and then I found her, and we journeyed together to Atlanta. And that's but with an echo effect on it, but on a black screen, because they didn't have Van Damme. So it's literally like these little intersecting cuts with black screen in this voice. It only happens maybe 3 or 4 times in the movie, but I mean, it's there. So yeah, I would say the link I'm going to put in there is right now. It is on
honestly,
the Internet
this
Archive.
to me is almost as weird as the alternate reality of 13th Warrior.
Yeah, kind of that. Except that there is a finished. Essentially, there is a
by the
version
director.
of this
There's a finished alternate universe cut.
Right. I'm trying to see. I'm just checking the one that I'm looking at here to make sure this is. Oh no, this is even a different version. Okay, it's an I will find. Yeah, see, this isn't the one I watched. This is all the VHS work print. Wow. So this isn't even the one that I watched, which has the HD footage. This is all the VHS. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, so basically, you can buy this. There's a UK, or is this German? There's German and French. It is available to buy, just not in the United States. I imagine it will come here at some point. But yeah, right now, it's the German one and the French one have the 2 cuts on the same disc. So yeah, Slinger, Albert Pune's director's cut of Cyborg. My God, that's a terrible title. But that's what it is. Yeah, and all the reviews are in German. So if you can read German, then... And a lot of them are good. You know. Tolles Product ist Sterne. I don't know what that means. But 5 stars. So...
5 stars!
Yes. 5 stars. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Because like I said, if you're very familiar with Cyborg, you're going to recognize all the footage. There weren't any major changes. They had to use all the available
honestly,
footage.
I think you and I talked about this at some point. That like how much dialogue do you have to change in a movie? Or how little of extra scenes do you really need to add to completely change the trajectory of a movie?
Yeah, not much.
You know, and yeah. I mean, honestly, just the fact they digitized her voice, that's a nice touch. That changes things a bit.
They clearly did something to try to, you know, well, and don't forget, that this was his original, more or less, test cut.
Yeah.
So all they had to do was remove the effect. They didn't have to add anything. They just had to take it off.
I wonder why they just hated it.
I don't know. That's the interesting bit is I don't know. But
odd.
Yeah. From what I read, it was 99 out of 100 audiences hated it. Of the audience members hated it.
That's so weird.
I mean, look, I'll say this about it. There's a lot more swearing in it, maybe because of the religious thing combined with the amount of times this guy says fucker. You know what? I think they did say the original cut would have gotten an X rating. Maybe that's why. Maybe it was the amount of swearing and religious stuff.
Language?
It does happen. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Unless there was like more nudity. Was there more nudity in it?
Not real. No. No, because the only nudity is the one woman, and it's in HD, which means it had to be from the original film. So no.
How weird. That is strange.
It's okay. Violent scenes were heavily cut. Okay, so they must have trimmed it. That's why some of them are longer. So I guess it was the gore. Also excised was the death of a man Van Damme was fighting, which causes an inconsistency. It made him look like he suddenly disappeared. Yeah.
So do you feel like it's more gory?
No, I mean, I guess if I watched them back to back, maybe.
Okay,
but
so you was so tiny you didn't really feel it.
No, but this is very common, right? I mean, you cut things by a certain amount of seconds, and somehow that, you know.
We were talking about this with World War Z, where they cleverly cut everything to give it like a PG-13 rating.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, maybe it was literally, for all I know, the MPAA has a thing that says if there's more than 30 minutes of blood, and so if you get it, here it is. Yeah, because it just says
listen.
we're heavily cut, but it doesn't say
I've just had this debate with my wife because we were trying to figure out what we were going to watch recently with the kids. And I was like, you know what? I think the kids are ready for 13th Warrior. And she was like, no. And I was like, why? And she was like, there's so much blood and decapitations. And I was like, God. And it's funny because the things that you don't, the things that you think the kids will be fine with, and then the things that like your wife thinks the kids will be fine with. Or my wife is like really on the fence about Die Hard. And I was like, have you watched Die Hard recently? And she was like, no. And I'm like, let me tell you what's in Die Hard. And then we're like going back and forth and like, okay. Like we keep looking for a rated R movie that we can like watch. But there just isn't one. They all push one of our lines just too far. And it's because you can get a Yeah, go ahead.
I found what they mentioned. Okay, cut by 3 minutes and 15 seconds to remove high amounts of violence and techniques that were considered too extreme for a R rating. These included numerous edits to punches, kicks, neck breaks, a hand severing. Oh yeah, I guess the hand severing isn't in the other one, huh? A pole being rammed into a man's mouth, and shots of a blade concealed in a man's boot. That's apparently was enough.
The boot, okay.
Yeah.
Who got a pipe to the mouth?
It is in the VHS stuff. A guy gets a pipe driven into his face.
Oh wow, look at that.
And I guess that's missing from Cyborg entirely. See, I don't have enough of a memory of Cyborg to know every scene they changed.
Yeah.
But that's, yeah. And originally he wanted to be black and white, which they said no to immediately. Yeah. Jean-Claude Van Damme's dialogue, including extensive narration, was dubbed by another actor. Here it is. Cannon held a test screening for an audience of 100. Of the 100, 99 said they hated the film. As a result, Pune was kicked out of post-production. Van Damme convinced the Golden Globus to give him and his producer friend 2 months to re-edit the film, as he had done with Bloodsport. Oh, maybe some shit went on with Bloodsport too. And make it more commercial. This started a trend where several of Pune's later films were taken away from him and recut by the studio. So there you go.
I wonder. Yeah, now I'm wondering what the hell happened with Bloodsport. What happened with Bloodsport? That Van Damme was like, "Hey, don't worry, we'll handle this."
I don't know. Fender in real life has a high-pitched voice. The first cut of the movie used his real voice. In the test screenings, the audience laughed at his scenes. They found it funny that such an imposing figure had a high-pitched voice. Afterwards, it was decided to make his voice deeper, and all of his lines were dubbed over. Yeah. So there's all kinds of shit.
So this is the dubbed over voice.
Is it? I don't remember. Does he sound like
okay, that's not high pitch.
Okay. Well, I don't know if it's. I also don't know what high pitched means. I mean, don't forget, we're talking about people who,
It's a high voice like this. I love Satan.
Well,
I kill for Satan.
Hold on. Let me see. Let me listen to him in the Cyborg Fender. Let me see. Hold on a minute. I'm going to see if I can listen to him in an actual...
Satan is
right,
so
here.
great.
Let me see what he says. Let me listen to his voice here. Oh, my God. Is that loud in my friggin' ears? Holy crap. Holy. Wow. Where's... Because he says, you are screwed, or whatever he says. That's his big villain line where he says, you are screwed. Hold on. Wait a minute. Oh, he didn't say anything. Does he not talk? Oh, son of a bitch. Does he not talk at all? Is it this whole scene he doesn't talk? Hold on a minute. Where's one where he talks, damn it? Oh, here. Maybe it's in this one. All right. Wait. Where's where he talks? Wait. I'm listening. Hold on. Talk.
Talk, you bastard.
I mean, the funny part is he doesn't say that much in the movie, so it is kind of easy to not even hear anything. Oh my God, he's not talking. None of these clips, he's not saying anything. How did I find every clip where he's not speaking?
I love Satan. He's so great. Where is that droid, bitch?
This is crazy. Oh, wait. I found it. I found his intro about liking the world. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on.
I like it a lot.
Wait. Yeah, it's the same voice. You're right. No, this is not the overdone. This is not his original voice.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
He's just more excited about Satan.
But she just loves Satan.
I just love Satan so much, everybody. Come on down. Tell you all about Satan.
And then it's got a new score, which is the other thing. Yeah. Like I said, it's if you like Cyborg, I think it's worth watching because it really is fascinating to see the same movie, 95% the same movie, just with scenes moved around in some cases and a completely different story through very small changes. Because much of the there's really not a lot of dialogue in the whole movie anyway. So it's much more of an action film than anything. And to watch something that's completely... and then to see all the little stuff that indicates that this was the original intent, I think it's fascinating. I wish I'd known about this sooner.
Well, you know what?
It's fascinating.
You always find stuff at the right time, I think.
Yeah. Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
Here's something. The movie was made during the moral panic of the 80s, the satanic panic era where evangelical Christians and conservative politicians had teamed up accusing popular culture of endorsing and glamorizing witchcraft, the occult, and Satanism.
Yeah. So that
the
fact that there's a bad guy running around going, Satan is good. Like they're like, no. We're not talking about Satan right now.
There you go. So
well, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Like I said, I encourage people.
I like Cyborg, so honestly, I'll watch Cyborg again as Slinger.
Yeah, and the only thing that's a little bit jarring, I mean, to be honest about it, is when it shifts to the VHS. I mean, it is a massive quality change.
Yeah, but
here's the
thing. Here's the thing. You know what you're watching. You know you're watching a hashed together directorial work.
Yeah, and I think the fact that you are seeing essentially a new movie that is the same movie, it makes you not care.
Listen, if you pursue this and sit down to watch it, you know what you're getting.
Right.
I mean, it's not like you're going to watch this by accident.
And if it was all in the VHS, it might be harder to take. But the fact is you're seeing what the original idea of some of these shots were, which is fascinating because you see ones that go on, or you see it start in VHS and then it snaps to HD, and you're like, oh, so they cut that. Even in those cases where they're cutting one or two lines that are specifically for the Satan stuff, but without them, it just can be generic sci-fi. Because as long as you cut off the thing where it's like, Satan told us to kill you, that's in the VHS, and it cuts back and it says, now we're going to rip your head off. Well, you could just say I can rip your head off, and it doesn't mean anything. But not Satan told me to, because now that changes the texture of the whole film. So that part is really fascinating, that you're seeing so much of, it's almost like a class in how movie editing in just small ways changes a movie in big ways. So even
it does.
Within that, it's fascinating. Yeah.
Changes it quite a bit. Yeah, and that's what we were talking about. How easy it is to re-edit a movie and just edit. Even if you just can edit a little bit of the dialogue, even.
You just leave a couple things in, you take a couple things out, and you have a massively different movie. So I would say it's worth seeing. It's just kind of tricky to find it.
Well, you know what? That's the old school fun of being a sci-fi nerd.
Yep.
Isn't it? The weird shit that's out there, go find it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I knew nothing about this. And if this gets released in an American version, I'll get it. Because I just like the idea of having the two versions of it. Because I always thought Cyborg was dumb fun. I like it. It's next to nonsensical, but I don't care.
Listen, and Nemesis is hugely dumb fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
I personally like Nemesis a little bit better because I think it's a little more stylish. But
that scene where that guy where he shoots his way through the floors.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking awesome.
The movie's amazing, and the idea that this was supposed to then lead into that world, and that there was, I guess, that's one of those things where you go, oh man, what would that have looked like? Hard to say.
Because instead we got Cyborg 2 with Jack Palance.
Oh, boy, we got a hell of a sequel, yeah.
And let me tell you, like, it's not that I want to not have that movie exist. I mean, listen, Angelina Jones, that was her first movie.
Yeah.
Her and Casey Jones and Jack Palance.
All right.
Classic.
It's a hell of a film.
But, not a good film.
No, not a good film.
No.
No.
So, wow, that's fun. I like that.
Yeah. I thought that was gonna. I didn't think you knew anything about that, so I was.
No, I didn't.
Like,
I'd never heard of it.
This is great, because it was news to me too. Before last week, no idea. Would never in a million years have imagined that there was a Satan version of Cyborg out there.
And that Van Damme is the person who saved the movie. I mean, that's funny in itself.
Yeah,
and then it's
like
not.
you said,
And then it's not the first time he's done it.
Right. I'm now in the same way. Like, okay, what happened with Bloodsport? So that'll be my next rabbit hole.
Originally, it was all about Satan. It was Bloodsport for Satan. You find out that all of Van Damme's early movies were about Van Damme and Satan.
Well, they edited all the parts where all the other Bloodsport fighters were killing goats and pouring their blood into a pentagram. They just edited around it so it looked like it was just a regular fighting tournament. No. It's just people killing each other for sport. There was no actual meaning.
Like a blood sport. It's not Satan sport.
Yeah, yeah. The original was Satanpuncher. That was what he was.
I mean, Satanpuncher is a bold name for a movie.
It's a great name. I mean,
but that implies that you're punching multiple Satans.
Hey, well, listen. If each of his worshippers is imbued with his power, are you not punching multiple Satans? I'm just saying, it's possible. So,
there you go.
Yeah. On that note, everybody,
there's plenty to watch.
There's plenty to watch. So, yeah. Go out there and...
Skeleton Crew, The Diplomat, Monsieur Spade.
Monsieur Spade and Slinger. So, yeah. Go have a great weekend and watch something. And if you know what's going on with Bloodsport, you know what? I'm going to not look anything up. On the off chance, because we've gotten really good stories from people that listen before, I'm going to hold off and not look anything up. If you have some kind of great story about Bloodsport,
I'll stop right now what I was doing.
Well, you can look up whatever you want. Just don't tell me.
I can't. I can't look something up and not tell you. I need to not look it up.
Hold off for a week, and if I don't hear anything by a day or two before, like let's say the Friday before or whatever.
There's no filter between you and me.
That's true. So we will restrain ourselves for a week. So if by a week from today, which is Friday, we don't hear anything, we're going to dive into Bloodsport and find out what the hell happened. But if you know anything, you got a week. Email the show and let us know, because it's possible somebody listening has an inside story. We've gotten those before, or just knows. Because this was apparently a well-known thing for a lot of people that were fans of Albert Pume, which I like his movies, but I wouldn't call I haven't seen every movie of his. So I wasn't aware of all this. This was the news to me. And it was pretty recent. I mean, 2011 was actually when it was found. So that is pretty recent for movie stuff to be found. So I'm sure there's a ton of this stuff. I just never would have. If I'd had to guess at what the controversy of Cyborg was, it would never have been that he made a Satanist film that they felt was too controversial. I would have guessed, if anything, that, they thought that the movie was a piece of garbage because it barely made sense. But hey,
no, Satan,
as they've warned us. For
honestly, that's going to just be the line from now on. What was wrong with the movie? Satan.
Yep. So have a great weekend, and if anything bad happens, just remember, Satan. Talk to you next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.